Chapter 13:18. You're too arrogant. Duanmu Si's eyes became colder, but he finally softened his tone. Our commander, Qin Liuha, is the son of the Heavenly Tao sect and the Lord of Jade Lake. He's a wise, sacred lord who knows how to use people. If you hand over my son, Duanmu Si, and pledge your loyalty to him, he'll definitely let go of the past and lead you to conquer the world. He said sincerely. If you succeed in the future, being the lord of a fourth-level dimensional world is nothing. You can even be a fourth-level dimensional world. You can even go to the top of the ruins of deity, accept the ruins emperor's reward, and become a deity. No one would have thought that Duanmu Ting didn't come to fight Jiang Tian, but to persuade him to surrender. Besides, the benefits were great. Entering the ruins of deity was a temptation that no one in the bottom dimensional worlds could resist. But only some overlords who were considered giants felt that Duanmu Ting's actions were reasonable. For an old monster like Duanmu Ting, revenge for his comrades and feelings were not worth mentioning. Only territory, resources, benefits, and the improvement of cultivation base and strength were the criteria that he took into consideration. What was the point of killing Jiang Tian in a life-and-death struggle? He might as well persuade Jiang Tian to surrender without wasting a single soldier. Then, he could occupy planet Tianxing and stabilize the world forever. Besides, he still thought that his son was in Jiang Tian's hands and was still alive, so he wouldn't dare to attack Jiang Tian easily. Be a dog for you guys like them? I'm not interested even if I have to be Jade Lake's dog or the ruins of deity's dog. Jiang Tian pointed at Kunling and the others' bodies and chuckled. I, Kong Teichu, was born with bad joints. I can't bend my back, lower my head, wag my tail, and beg for mercy. I'll never be able to learn these actions. Duanmu Ting's smile gradually disappeared. His eyes were cold and he exuded a violent and bloodthirsty aura. My friend Tai Chu, you ate my food and drank my wine. Do you want to leave just like that? You have to go through my army first. I'm not used to owing people favors. I've always been clear about it. I've eaten your food and drank your wine. Even if you don't accept the money, I'll still return it to you. Jiang Tian said with a smile. Fellow Taoist Duanmu, although I, Kong Teichu, am an abandoned person of the wasteland and a little poor, I still have a backbone. His smile was incomparably brilliant as he lightly patted the heaven-devouring devil gourd at his waist. Duanmu Si's head flew out and landed before Duanmu Ting. The Grand Primordium ruler is too ruthless. This move again. They killed their descendants and forced them to take action. This is going to pierce through the heavens. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air. Their faces were full of shock and disbelief. This Jiang guy must be crazy. With this head flying out, it means that the conflict between the two sides is irreconcilable. It's a fight to the death. Jiang Tian is courting death. The formation of an iron army is extremely powerful. Even nascent soul experts might not be able to withstand it. Furthermore, Duanmu Ting's strength is not to be underestimated either. Back then, he was the one who defeated Kunling, Yuan Zihua, and the other two without bringing a single soldier with him. If Kong Teichu thinks that he can compete with Duanmu Ting just because he killed 3 nascent soul cultivators, he's way too naive. Some Jade Lake cultivators shook their heads mockingly. Everyone here is a hero. Kill your son and pay for the wine. How delightful. Jiang Tian looked at Duanmu Ting, who had an ashen expression, and he roared with laughter while dripping with delight. Kong Teichu, I'll fight you to the death today. The moment he saw his son's head, Duanmu Ting was enraged. The killing intent in his eyes was extremely dense, as though a primordial beast had awakened. A berserk aura surged, as though he wanted to tear the heavens, destroy the world, and devour everyone. Tens of thousands of Jade Lake cultivators had talisman arrays engraved on their armors that shone brightly, increasing their combat strength to the maximum. They were expressionless, but their eyes were filled with killing intent as they raised their sabers and roared. Their terrifying killing intent materialized and crushed Cloud Tower until it cracked inch by inch and was on the verge of collapsing. Grand Primordium Lord, let's retreat first. We'll gather with the Fiend Cave Mountain and the Barren Border Army and kill them. Zhao Hongtian and the other cultivators who supported Jiang Tian flew to Jiang Tian's side and tried to persuade Jiang Tian with their divine consciousnesses. Duanmu Ting and his army could sweep across Heavenly Star Continent and nothing could stop them. It made their hearts palpitate. What's the big deal? Don't worry, they can't hurt me at all. All of you, retreat now. Jiang Tian was calm and his tone was full of mockery. They were just dozens of golden core cultivators and tens of thousands of qi refinement and foundation establishment cultivators. Jiang Tian had killed many more in Maolin City back in West Earth. But back then, Jiang Tian was still relying on a few divine bodies and hadn't formed the chaotic divine body and golden core. Didn't he still kill them? Now that Jiang Tian's strength had increased 100 times, it would be strange if he couldn't deal with them. But we're not leaving. Zhao Hongtian and the others looked anxious and worried, but they didn't want to leave. They wanted to fight side by side with Jiang Tian and face death with equanimity. Boom. Many military formations were lined up neatly as they charged towards Jiang Tian. They were like a huge millstone that could crush and obliterate everything. All of you, retreat. I'll kill them with a snap of my fingers. Don't be affected by my Dharma power. Jiang Tian crushed the wine cup and put his hands behind his back. His body shot up like a dragon, directly charging towards the steel army formation. At this moment, there was a dead silence in the sky and on the ground. Many Heaven Star cultivators were furious. Their faces were full of despair and anger, but they couldn't say a word. Against the tens of thousands of troops, Jiang Tian's figure was as small as an ant. It was like hitting a stone with an egg, like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. After all, this army was the backbone of the Jade Lake Army. A single army was enough to wipe out an entire dimensional world. Even if a nascent soul cultivator was here, he would have to avoid it and wouldn't dare to meet it head-on. Who would dare to meet it head-on like Jiang Tian? Kong Teichu knows he can't escape. He's desperate, so he only wants to die quickly. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have done it. Wild Wave City is a tiger's den. The Jade Lake cultivators are extremely powerful. How can he come and go as he pleases? He's scared out of his wits. He's crazy. Only the cultivators of the Jade Lake were laughing wildly. I've killed this kid today, and it can be said that I've avenged a great enmity. You can rest in peace now. Even Duanmu Ting revealed a hint of mockery. Then he closed his eyes slightly, tears rolling down his face as he looked up to the sky and sighed. In their eyes, Jiang Tian was already a dead man who was digging his own grave. However, the next scene made everyone unable to believe it. Rumble. Jiang Tian's speed became faster and faster. He was like a human-shaped missile crossing the sky. Endless chaotic aura bloomed from the soles of his feet, constantly exploding the space and dragging a long tail. The chaotic divine body's ability burst out, as if opening up a world behind him, forming an unparalleled driving force. And in front of him, a Kuan Peng phantom appeared. It cried out to the 9 heavens, constantly opening and tearing the space. Strange black spatial cracks appeared one after another, leaving Jiang Tian without any space to block. This speed was as fast as the speed of light. It was sharp to the extreme, as if it could split the entire world into two. At this moment, in everyone's eyes, there was nothing left in the world except for a bright ray of light. Seeing this, Duanmu Ting's expression changed drastically, and he cursed inwardly. However, it was already too late. Under the impact of Jiang Tian's attacks, the indestructible military formations were like strings of firecrackers, exploding miserably. Be it the war chariots or the cloud towers, they all shattered like tofu. The chariots, cloud towers, flying boats, and the armors and weapons of the cultivators and soldiers were engraved with runes. Even their golden cores and bodies contained vast Dharma power. Once they were shattered, they would explode uncontrollably. Immediately, giant fireballs bloomed in the sky, burning everything. Giant mushroom clouds rose even higher in the sky. Every fireball, every explosion, and every mushroom cloud represented the death of a gold core stage cultivator. The hurricane in the sky whistled and swept in all directions. The vast sound waves collided with the tower in the clouds and the thick and heavy city walls of the wild wave city, causing the huge city to rumble from the impact. The trembling tower in the clouds persevered for 3 seconds before it shattered into pieces. Rubble flew through the air and turned into billowing smoke that drifted away. The entire wild wave city was in a state of chaos, with sand flying everywhere. Dark clouds gathered in the sky and blocked the sun. The sky was dark and they couldn't even see their own fingers. Thunder rumbled and the smell of ozone filled the air. It was an extremely shocking scene. This is the real attack of a celestial phenomenon. A nascent soul cultivator. No, to be exact, the Taichu Dominator attacked them and caused a change in the weather. Too powerful. That's terrifying. What level is the Dominator at? Is he a golden core cultivator? But he clearly has the power of a nascent soul cultivator. Zhao Hongtian and the others, who had run far away, couldn't be more shocked. They were even more shocked when they saw. Jiang Tian was like a peerless heavenly sword that could cut open the heavens and earth. He swept across 10 kilometers and crashed through the entire army from head to toe. It wasn't as simple as tearing the military formation apart. To us, wherever Jiang Tian passed by, within a radius of 1 mile, even if the gold core experts didn't even touch Jiang Tian, they would instantly explode into blood mist. The chaotic power of Jiang Tian's golden core was like the Big Bang of the universe, which could destroy and tear everything apart. Even the so-called indestructible golden core exploded like mud. As for the Jade Lake cultivators below the golden core level, they were blown apart by the wind brought by Jiang Tian. They didn't die from Jiang Tian's divine powers and Dharma spells. After 3 flicks of the fingers, the explosions in the world stopped, the dark clouds and the hurricane gradually dissipated and the dust settled. The garrison of the Wild Wave City, the 30,000 elite cultivators of the Jade Lake Army, the Foundation Establishment cultivators and the Golden Core cultivators were all killed. Only Duanmu Ting was left standing in the air alone. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Duanmu Ting's teeth were chattering and his entire body was shaking. He staggered a few steps back and was about to fall. How is that possible? Cold sweat rolled down his forehead and he was dumbfounded as if he had seen a demon. His face was paler than a corpse that had been dead for 3 days. Chapter 1319. At this moment, the entire Wild Waves city fell into a dead silence. Everyone stared at the tall and majestic figure in the sky dumbfoundedly, as if they were looking at a god or a demon. How is this possible? Is he a peerless heavenly lord? Many Jade Lake cultivators were so frightened that they almost knelt on the ground. The power Jiang Tian displayed was no longer that of an ordinary golden core cultivator, but that of a nascent soul cultivator. It was too terrifying. With one attack, 30,000 soldiers and 20 golden core cultivators were killed. I'm afraid that even Qinliuhe, my sister Long Xin, the heir of the ruins of immortality, and those peerless geniuses on the God of War list don't have such strength. Not to mention them, even Long Yanan, who was being guarded by the large black dog, was shocked to the point her beautiful face turned pale. She was dumbstruck, and her heart palpitated with fear and disbelief. She felt as if she was having a nightmare. Didn't he come from Earth? Wasn't that the land of the last days, where the cultivation civilization was cut off? How could such a monstrous figure be born there? It's only been 2 years. How could he advance so quickly? The absolute beginning dominator is 10 times, 100 times stronger than before. Even Zhao Hongtian, Qin Feihong, and the other cultivators of Heavenly Star were in disbelief. They couldn't figure it out no matter how hard they tried. The spirit chi of Earth had withered, and it was a dead planet. How could Jiang Tian advance so quickly in 2 years? Even with all the resources of Star World, Jiang Tian could only reach the Golden Core level at most. How could he reach the nascent soul level? Patter! Jiang Tian stepped into the air and walked to the sky above Duanmu Ting. He looked down at him as if he was looking at an ant and said with a mocking smile, "Now, do you still think I'm vulnerable and will lose? Do you think I should bow down and admit defeat?" Duanmu Ting's teeth chattered and he couldn't say a word. At this moment, he was very close to Jiang Tian and could feel the aura and momentum of Jiang Tian. It was a golden core cultivator. Moreover, Jiang Tian's golden core didn't have any attributes, and his bloodline was extremely special. It was just an ordinary golden core. In fact, it was an ordinary core formation that had just formed not too long ago. However, such an ordinary golden core cultivator was able to destroy the entire army with a casual crash. This included many numinous treasures, dermic artifacts, and many golden core experts. All of them were destroyed. You can't kill me. I still have a captive, Ding Lingdeng. He's an old friend of yours. Duan Muting said. Look at who that is. Jiang Tian raised his hand and pointed. He saw it. An old figure dressed as an old servant in green robes slowly rose into the sky from the city lord's mansion with a young girl in tow. They stepped on the clouds and traveled through the air. Who else could that young girl be but Ding Lingdeng? Grand Primordium Sovereign, spare my life. I'm willing to surrender. Duan Muting's vision went black. Luckily, he didn't faint. I've already said that you don't have any bargaining chips to negotiate with me. How could Jiang Tian let him go? With a cold smile, his right hand unceremoniously slapped down from the air. Rumble. Under Jiang Tian's unstoppable palm power, Duan Muting turned into a thin paste of flesh and exploded in the air. Even his divine soul and golden core were crushed into pieces. At that moment, the many cultivator captives of the Stellar Sky domain locked up in the City Lord's Mansion's dungeon were all rescued and released by Patriarch Shenlong. Awesome. Good kill. The Grand Primordium Sovereign is back. As soon as they came out, they saw Jiang Tian attacking the army and killing Duan Muting. They couldn't help but shout in joy. This is the hero of my dreams. Those female cultivators were especially enraptured. They were already mesmerized. He really came back. As for Ding Lingdeng, seeing that Jiang Tian, whom she had been looking forward to so much, had returned, she smiled with tears in her eyes. Her gentle gaze was no longer willing to look away. She only wished that it would be like this for the rest of her life. Shenlong, you and Big Black suppress the Jade Pool cultivators here. If anyone resists, kill them without mercy. I'm going to the desolate border city. After destroying the Wild Wave City's garrison with a single strike, Jiang Tian immediately rolled up his sleeves, bringing Ding Lingdeng along as he stepped on his sword and flew away, flying towards the desolate border city. According to the information he had gathered, the real main force of the Jade Pool army had been besieging the desolate border city for several months. Shenlong was a nascent soul realm cultivator, so it was easy for him to eliminate the remnants of the Jade Pool army and suppress the Wild Wave City. Jiang Tian was very relieved. At the same time, in the desolate border city, countless Jade Pool cultivators flew into the sky on all kinds of flying boats, battleships, and cloud towers. They arranged themselves into military formations and firmly surrounded the giant city. Spears, fireballs, wind blades, ice arrows, thunderstones, and giant cannons were released and poured down like rain on the defense array of the desolate border city. The places where the attacks were concentrated were like torrents and rivers. The destructive power was very terrifying, comparable to the attack of a golden core realm cultivator or even a nascent soul realm cultivator. The talisman arrays on the huge city wall of the desolate border city flashed and circulated. Many defense arrays emitted colorful brilliance, forming a dome shield that covered the entire city. However, under the attack of the enemy's Dharma artifacts, there were originally 13 layers of defense arrays, but now there was only one left, and it was broken by the enemy from time to time. Once there was a gap in the array shield, the two sides would immediately engage in a cruel close combat and bloody battle. The cultivators of the Heavenly Star Realm and the Jade Pool engaged in a life-and-death battle. At close range, the Dharma artifacts bombarded each other and corpses fell like rain. There were originally tens of thousands of soldiers defending the desolate border city, but now there were only a few thousand left. Among them, more than 30,000 cultivators of the Demon Cave Mountain had been sacrificed. Throughout Desolate City, corpses were piled up on the streets and roofs. Blood flowed everywhere, both mortals and cultivators. A foul stench filled the air, flies fluttered in the air, and blood flowed from the city towers. People walked on the sticky ground, their feet slipping. "We can't break out. If we knew, we wouldn't have come in." Miaosu was standing on the city tower with a few senior sisters, looking at the Jade Pool army outside in despair. Outside the city, a space-locking formation had been activated. Surging waves of mana rose into the sky from all directions like smoke signals, firmly locking down the entire border city. Once the cultivators of the Heavenly Star Realm rushed out, they would be killed immediately. The desolate border city was the last fortress of the Star World. The people guarding it were the most elite and tenacious cultivators of the Star World. Although they were in a weak position, they had killed many cultivators of the Jade Pool world and aroused great hatred from the other side. Chen Liuhe ordered to wash this place with blood. Once the city was breached, they would slaughter all the cultivators and mortals in the city. Boom! All of a sudden, a bolt of lightning pierced through the sky and opened up a large hole in the northern region of the defensive barrier, with a radius of about 1 mile. Next to Miaosu, Fairy Miao Yi suddenly rose into the sky and yelled, "Ingluo Miaosu, come with me. I'll kill the enemy and you too repair the damaged array." Goddess Miao Yi shot out like an arrow and arrived before the hole in the formation in the sky. Then, she swung her sword without hesitation. A cold gleam flashed across the air, and dozens of Foundation establishment cultivators who were attacking her were instantly killed. Blood gushed out like a river. After more than 2 years, she had benefited from the spirit chi that was several times denser after the array was stabilized and the cultivation art passed down by Jiang Tian. She had already broken through to the fake core level. Moreover, her slender and delicate body was long gone. She had become fierce and courageous. Moreover, her sword technique was sharper and her moves were smooth like flowing clouds and flowing water. Miao Su was still in a daze. She was shivering and had yet to regain her senses. The situation in front of her was too bloody. In the sky and on the ground, there were dozens of battle points. Broken limbs flew everywhere, blood spurted, Dharma artifacts shot out, and the flames of war soared into the sky. It was like purgatory on Earth. This was war. This was the invasion of one world into another. It couldn't be compared to the previous duels between cultivators and sections. Xiao Yingluo carried the array components on her back and flew toward the array plate in the sky. She yelled, "Sister Miaosu, what are you waiting for? Come quickly." Back then, her family had opened the weapon refining hall and had dabbled in arrays and talismans. After meeting Jiang Tian, she had received several pointers from Jiang Tian, and her array skills had improved. She had always been in charge of repairing and maintaining the array in the border city. She had a unique vision, was fast, and never made any mistakes. She was highly regarded. She revealed her late-stage Foundation establishment-level cultivation and killed a few Jade Lake cultivators with her sword. She landed on the broken part of the array and began to repair it. However, a flying boat immediately flew over and activated its lightning cannons amidst a loud rumble. Fortunately, Qiao Beishan held a huge shield that was taller than him. He gritted his teeth and blocked the attack of the Thunder Dharma artifact. Every time the Dharma artifact attacked, Qiao Beishan was shaken to the point of spitting blood. His body shook violently and his muscles trembled, but he didn't retreat. Qiao Yingluo's face was covered in dust, but her eyes were sharp and calm. She quickly replaced the damaged Dharma artifact, and the torn light shield immediately healed. When the two of them retreated into the city, Qiao Beishan vomited blood and fell to the ground. His arm was already bleeding, and his bones were shattered in many places. Only white bones were left of his 5 fingers, and his pupils were dilated. Immediately, a cultivator came forward to treat him. He shook his head in disappointment and said sadly, "His dandan is broken. Even if it recovers, it's useless." Qiao Yingluo's tears flowed, leaving 2 streaks on her dirty little face. She stared at Miao Su and broke down. "Miao Su, if you listened to orders and cooperated well, my brother would be fine. What are you doing?" I'm scared. Miao Su also cried, her face full of shame. She had never experienced such a cruel battle. Fairy Miao Yi was surrounded by dozens of Jade Lake cultivators. Her eyes were red and she shouted, "What's the use of being scared? We have no way out." At this time, the Jade Lake army retreated. Fairy Miao Yi quickly took the opportunity to retreat into the city, just as the Heavenly Star warriors were cheering. All of a sudden, a huge black cloud tower with a terrifying beast head carved on its pedestal slowly rose into the sky and calmly pressed down on the outskirts of the city. Oh no! That nascent soul old monster's cloud tower is rising. Immediately inform King Ding Lai and prepare for battle. Xiao Yingluo, Fairy Miao Yi, Zen Master Dexin, and the others all changed their expressions. Jiang Yunhe flew towards the city lord's residence. Chapter 1320. The city lord mansion had become a temporary command center. Ding Lai, who had been seriously injured, stood with his brows furrowed and his face gloomy and sorrowful. Beside him, several fake core stage cultivators had solemn expressions and were in low spirits as they discussed the battle situation with him and how to defend against the enemy. After hearing Jiang Yunhe's report, Ding Lai pondered for a moment and gently threw down the battle map in his hand. All cultivators, go out of the city and fight. Open the city gates and let the mortals escape. King, if we go out of the city to fight, we will only die. A fake core stage general cried out in despair. If we don't go out of the city, we won't be able to hold on for long. I'm afraid we only have half a day. Ding Lai stood up and said with a face full of seniority. But if we all go out to fight, we can attract the enemy's firepower. The mortals in the city will have a chance to escape. King, please reconsider. Many of the generals begged. This is my choice. I would rather die than be a slave. Fellow Taoists, do as you please. Ding Lai smiled bitterly, stood up, and flew out of the city step by step. Jiang Yunhe clenched his teeth and followed on his sword. What will come, will come. On the city wall, Monk Dashin's ragged robe was stained with blood. He was so thin that he looked like he could be blown away by a gust of wind. He looked at the densely packed Heavenly Star cultivator corpses outside the city with a sorrowful expression. This was a bitter battle. In the end, not to mention spirit pills, spirit grains, or even ordinary grains, they did not have enough. His ancestor, Monk Bitter Sea, had chosen to betray them, but he did not hesitate to be expelled from his sect and stood firmly on the side of the Heavenly Star cultivators. Then, the deep sorrow on his face turned into endless determination and resoluteness. He roared, "Forget it. I will use my life to meet that nascent soul old monster and see if the nascent soul of the Jade Lake is really invincible." Monk Dashin really threw caution to the wind. His sleeves fluttered as he rushed into the sky and blocked the huge cloud tower. This nascent soul old monster was too powerful. He could break the defensive array with one blow. They could block him for a moment, and the mortals in the border city would live for a moment longer. I will go too. Xiao Beishan propped himself up, then fell down again. He hammered the ground in grief and indignation, panting and gasping for breath. Sigh, if the absolute primordium sovereign was still here, the Jade Lake's cultivators wouldn't be able to strut around. I'm afraid even the Grand Primordium ruler wouldn't be able to stop them. At the side, a cultivator with a severed arm said in despair and grief, Don't go. Don't go looking for death. I met the Grand Primordium ruler on the way, but he should have gone to Wild Wave City." At this moment, Miao Su hurriedly spoke. Although Jiang Tian had told her not to reveal her whereabouts, she felt that it was not a problem to reveal her whereabouts under such circumstances. It could even encourage everyone's fighting spirit. However, as soon as she rushed into the city, she quickly joined the battle and did not even have the time to explain the situation to everyone. Are you kidding me? How would he dare to come? He was only a foundation establishment cultivator. He couldn't even withstand a single blow. Ha! The one-armed cultivator said with grief and indignation. He was so disrespectful to Jiang Tian, but no one said anything about him, and it was not good for them to say anything. He had already lost an arm to the enemy, and his wife and children had sacrificed themselves in the war. He had also sacrificed himself for the Stellar Sky domain. He was not a coward. It was just that under great pressure and after tragic sacrifices, people would always develop all kinds of pessimistic and desperate emotions. It was understandable. It's true. I believe the absolute primordium ruler will be here soon. Everyone, don't be rash. Don't go to your deaths. Miao Su was anxious and wanted to persuade everyone. He won't return, coward. The one-armed cultivator shouted in despair. I will go too. Kong Teichu is not a coward. His friends and comrades are not cowards either. However, Xiao Yingluo wiped away her tears. Her eyes were firm as she stepped into the air with her sword and followed. Immediately after, one by one, the Stellar Sky Domain cultivators rushed out of the border city with determined expressions. Outside the city, hundreds of cultivators stood in a circle. Their faces were as calm as statues. They were going to fight the nascent soul cultivators in the beast-headed cloud tower with their flesh and blood. Under the shadow of the huge cloud tower, they were like a group of tiny mosquitoes that could almost be ignored. However, their fighting spirit was still surging like a tide, and their faces were full of unyielding fighting spirit. Interesting. At this time, from the depths of the cloud tower, a handsome young man wearing a golden crown and a yellow robe slowly walked out. Why don't you surrender? Why do you want to be the lackey of a mortal from Earth? You don't even care about death. You're going to die one after another. His face was as beautiful as jade and he was extremely handsome. His movements were elegant, like a deity, but he exuded a monstrous aura. Chen Liuha, the general of the Jade Lake Army, the heir of the Jade Lake Heavenly Path sect, had reached the nascent soul realm at a young age. It was said that he was only one step away from the god of war list in the ruins of immortality. Following him, more than 20 golden core overlords walked out one by one. Each of them was as tall as a mountain. They were powerful and could control the world. Their every move exuded a terrifying aura and had the power to destroy a city. People of different paths can't work together. We cultivators of planet Tianxing fight to protect the weak and never bully the weak. Xiao Yingluo's voice was sonorous and cold. Chen Liuha asked lazily, what you said is nonsense and stubborn. Did Kong Teichu teach you that? In the cultivation world, the strong are respected and the weak are ants. The strong trample on the weak. That's the truth. Look at Kuan Ling and Yuan Zihua. Their cultivation has improved, their lifespans are longer, their dermic powers are deep, and they have endless benefits. You fight for the weak, but what do you get in return? You can't even keep your life, so why are you still talking about your ideals? I really pity you. I'd rather die than be free. Xiao Yingluo retorted sarcastically. We'd rather die standing than kneel and be your lackeys. Little girl, there's something you don't understand. Chen Liuha shook his head. Didn't you also become the lackeys of Kong Teichu, Ding Lai, and Bai Zhe? How can there be true freedom in this world? People have to be lackeys in life. Just like Jade Pool, we're just lackeys of the ruins of immortality. However, even if you're a dog, find a good master. If you find a good master, you can eat and wear warm clothes and bully others. If you can't find a good master, not only can you not eat your fill, you can't even keep your life. Shameless. You're actually willing to be a dog and still talk big. Everyone couldn't stand his ugly face. In the end, even the good-tempered fairy Miao Yi couldn't help but retort. Haha, you can't even keep your home, and you're still in the mood to mock me? Chen Liuha wasn't angry and said leisurely, I'm just a lackey. I'm a lackey, but at least I have a home. What about you guys? You're a stray dog with your life on the line, living in fear all the time. Our home will always be there. As long as we don't give in, Heavenly Star won't be destroyed and won't fall into your hands. Xiao Yingluo shouted coldly. You still want to fight? What will you fight with? You Foundation establishment ants don't even have a golden core cultivator. Chen Liuha laughed loudly, and tears almost came out of his eyes. His sarcasm was extremely strong. According to what you said, Kong Teichu said that the strong fight for the weak. Where is he? Where are Ding Lai and Bai Zhe? Why did they let you rush to the front as cannon fodder while they hid in the back and didn't dare to show their faces? You're so stupid. Are you talking to me? A slightly cold voice rang out. You're right. We're stupid, but we have persistence and ideals. We're different from animals like you. Ding Lai led a dozen fake core cultivators to fly out of the city and stand in front of Qiao Yingluo and the others. Although they weren't strong enough and were even seriously injured, their murderous aura was monstrous and their momentum wasn't weak at all. Ding Lai, you're finally willing to come out of your turtle shell. Chen Liuhe smiled sinisterly and said mockingly. Surrender. Ding Lai, you're just an early-stage golden core cultivator. The others haven't even condensed their golden cores. They're too weak to withstand a single blow. Why do you have to be an ant trying to shake a tree and a mantis trying to stop a chariot? You have to know that only death awaits you if you resist me. His eyes turned cold as he said, Don't worry. Moreover, Ding Lai, even if you're not afraid of death, your daughter Ding Lingdang is in our hands. Her life and death are in my hands. If you surrender, I can give her a way out. She'll still be the princess of this world, high and mighty. If you insist on your own way and don't surrender, I'll sell her to the dirtiest mortal brothel in the Jade Pool. Her lips will be tasted by thousands and her arms will be pillowed by tens of thousands. And they'll all be the ugliest mortals. Heavenly Star cultivators aren't afraid of death. Why should we fear death? A trace of regret flashed in the depths of Ding Lai's eyes, but it immediately turned into boundless determination. Heavenly Star cultivators will fight to the last man for our homeland and bleed to the last drop of blood. I'm like this and so is my daughter. Fight. We can't take a step back. Behind us is our homeland. When enemies meet on a narrow path, only the brave can win. Fairy Miao Yi Jiang Yunhe, Zen Master Dexin, and the other young experts walked out one after another. Their blood surged, and they erupted with powerful auras. Their eyes were filled with boundless determination. Even Qiao Yingluo clenched her teeth and pulled out her long sword. Her pretty face was full of fearlessness. She wanted to kill until her blood ran dry and her bones were no more for this giant city and the billions of gods in Heavenly Star. Stubborn. Seeing this, Chen Liuhe's killing intent suddenly surged. He flicked his long sleeves and his eyes were cold and stern. I've given you too many chances, but you're still as stubborn as elm lumps. You don't know what's good for you and insist on being enemies with me. You've exhausted my patience. Chapter 1321. Boom! Suddenly, an experienced golden core cultivator behind Chen Liuhe walked out of the Beasthead Cloud Tower and shouted, General, there's no need to talk to a bunch of ants. Just kill them. Boom. His dantian roared like a heavenly river bursting its banks. Endless black vital energy gushed out of his dantian, and a 1,000-meter-tall pitch-black whale Dharma power condensed behind him. The whale seemed to be made of black glue, as if it were real, like a demon or a god, as if it could shake the world. The entire border city and the array shield shook violently under the old man's attack, as if the mountains were about to collapse. Following his palm, a several hundred-meter large black vital energy palm that was like a whale's tail descended from the heavens, suppressing everyone in the desolate border. Before the giant palm arrived, the violent pressure had already shaken everyone to the core. Their clothes flew straight behind them as if they were about to be torn apart. This is the power of a perfected golden core cultivator. One attack is enough to kill all the Foundation establishment and false core cultivators. This is perfected immortal Heijing. He's very powerful. On the city walls where gales roared, countless desolate border soldiers were alarmed. Many of them were Qi refinement and Foundation establishment cultivators, but if it weren't for the array shield in the city, they would have been crushed to pieces immediately. Clang. Ding Lai frowned and formed a tiger god Dharma appearance, which rushed out to protect everyone. However, his Dharma appearance was only 100 meters tall and wasn't real, it was very weak. Under the giant black palm, Ding Lai's tiger god Dharma appearance couldn't withstand a single blow and was smashed to pieces. The giant black palm was about to smash everyone into meat paste. Chen Liuhe, Heijing, you're so aggressive. Do you really think there's no one in Stellar Sky Domain who can stop you? At that instant, A furious voice could be heard coming from the distance. What a powerful Dharma power! Perfected immortal Heijing's eyes widened in shock. What? Bai Zai is here? Many overlords were shocked and looked over. They saw a giant godly beast with a dragon head, a lion body, and 9 curved horns appeared out of nowhere. It was over 1,000 zhang tall, standing firmly between the heavens and earth with a ferocious aura. This Bai Zai Dharma idol was ferocious. It flew over quickly and punched the giant black palm in the air, causing it to explode. He's recovered his peak strength. He's fine. True immortal Heijing's body trembled violently as he took a step back. He tasted something sweet in the back of his throat and almost coughed out a mouthful of blood. His Dharma idol also trembled violently and distorted as if it was about to collapse. He saw it. A handsome young man with a face that seemed to have been chiseled by a knife and an axe, and he had a slightly resolute expression. He wore a feathered robe and a star crown, and he wore a pair of wide sleeves and a wide belt. He was confident and at ease, and every step he took caused ripples to appear. He seemed to be walking slowly but was actually walking quickly through the air. The young man's face was young and tender, but his eyes were incomparably ancient, as if he had experienced countless years. His face was full of arrogance, as if nothing in the world could stop him. Senior Bai Zai can actually fight? Don't tell me you've recovered. Jiang Yunhe, Miao Yi Fairy, Xiao Yingluo and the others were dumbfounded. Great, now that Senior Bai Zai is here, we can retreat unscathed. Ding Lai exclaimed. Yuan Zihua poisoned him and injured his Dantian spirit embryo. How can he recover? Chen Liuhe frowned and a hint of surprise appeared on his handsome face. He couldn't help but gasp. Humph, Yuan Zihua is nothing. I have the Budian pill and detoxification pill left by Brother Taichu. Even if he soaks my Dantian in a jar of poison for a year and smashes it into meat paste, I can still recover. Bai Zai's Dantian rumbled and he put away his Dharma idol. He stood in front of everyone and sneered. Today, I'm going to beat all of you until you're looking for your teeth on the ground and licking my toes. Bai Zai, even if you recover to your peak state and have the cultivation of a nascent soul, you can't turn the situation around. Chen Liuhe sneered when he heard this, and then his face turned cold. He bowed deeply towards the pavilion and said, Ancestor Binding Sun, please take action. Ancestral Patriarch Fu Ri. On the Cloud Tower, the Golden Core generals and even the nascent soul overlords all bowed deeply and were extremely humble. Ancestral Patriarch Fu Ri, it's him. The Grand Elder of the Heavenly Path sect of Jade Lake. I heard that he's entered the nascent soul level a few hundred years ago. I'm afraid he's already at level 2. Hearing that, Ding Lai's eyes almost popped out. He was frightened and his mouth tasted bitter. It was said that he comprehended the laws of nets and tassels and formed his own forbidden realm with them. With tassels in hand, he could bind the sun and the moon and his net could cover the earth. His talent was excellent, his magic power was unpredictable, and his strength was extremely strong. Even in the Jade Lake world, he was almost at the top. Except for the ruler of the Jade Lake, the Tiandao sect master, few people could suppress him. He originally thought that the one hiding in the Cloud Tower should be a new nascent soul cultivator, but he didn't expect it to be an old giant. Bai Zai's face became unprecedentedly serious. He said with his immortal will, Ding Lai, I'm here to deal with the enemy. You guys retreat to the Red Thunder Mountain. There are a lot of arrays there and the remnants of the Heavenly God sect and the monster cultivators can still hold on for a few more days. Senior, Ding Lai was struggling. Nobody wanted to leave Bai Zai alone and take the risk, but to be honest, Ancestral Patriarch Fu Ri was too powerful. They would only die if they stayed there. While everyone was struggling and wondering whether they should fight or retreat. Fellow Taoist, why do you insist on doing things your own way and associate yourself with that ant from Earth, Jiang Taichu? You'd be wise to put down your Dharma artifacts and surrender to the Jade Lake. Suddenly, within the Beast Head Cloud Tower, an incomparably old voice sounded out at a moderate pace. Then, everyone felt as if everything in the world had suddenly stopped. Everyone's figures were also frozen in place, as if even time between heaven and earth had stopped flowing. As if a picture had been frozen, with Bai Zhe and the others as the center, within a radius of 1 mile, all life, plants, cultivators, spiritual qi, magic power waves of magic arrays and magic artifacts, even the flowing clouds in the sky and the howling wind in the sky, all stopped moving, as if someone had pressed the pause button on a movie. Other than Bai Zhe, everyone else couldn't move their eyes, couldn't lift their hands, and couldn't even move their little fingers. Many young cultivators didn't know what was going on and looked at each other. But Bai Zhe and Ding Lai were shocked. The legendary Forbidden Zone. This is the ability of a nascent soul cultivator to restrict the world. Once he says it, the laws will follow. It's like a heavenly mirror. His Forbidden Zone can reach a radius of 1 mile. It's even more powerful than a normal nascent soul cultivator. This divine power was really terrifying. Ever since the master of the Heavenly God sect, who had a nascent soul cultivation base, had fallen while resisting the invasion of the devil race, no one had been able to use this kind of magical power in the stellar sky domain for thousands of years. It had become an illusory legend. The Forbidden Zone divine power consumed a lot of energy even for a nascent soul cultivator and couldn't be used for a long time. However, the Forbidden Zone only lasted for 3 seconds before it dissipated. The heaven and earth essence qi started to flow freely. Everyone found that they could control their bodies, but they still had lingering fears. The feeling of not being able to control one's body as if it wasn't one's own was really uncomfortable. Many stellar sky domain cultivators were livid. This old ancestor binding son hadn't even shown himself yet. He had only used the Forbidden Zone to show off his power and control everyone like they were puppets. Would Bai Zhe be a match for him? Fairy Miao Yi's face was pale. Xiao Yingluo's palms were sweating as she held her sword. Jiang Yunhe was on guard. Everyone looked at Bai Zhe. You're very strong, but fortunately I still have a backup plan. I can still fight. Bai Zhe's face was extremely solemn. He took out a sword, and sharp sword qi and sword light condensed on it. The name of this sword was Broken Mountain. In the past, the Heavenly God sect's master had used this sword to defeat many devils. He had split open mountains and destroyed many formations. He had created one sword valley, which could be considered a true treasure. Now, with this sword in hand, Bai Zhe could increase his battle strength by 10 times. Once the sword was out, a bolt of lightning seemed to flash between heaven and earth, illuminating a radius of 10 miles. The cold wind whistled, and dark clouds gathered. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. The scene was bleak and tragic. The violent sword qi and killing intent rushed into the sky like stormy waves. The sword qi rushed like a bowl, and the cold light illuminated the sky. Layers of sword light suddenly burst out. The cold light flashed and spread out like a fan, and it kept extending forward. Finally, a long sword about 100 meters long was formed. It looked like a dragon's scales were spread out. Is the stellar sky domain so poor? To think that you, Bai Zhe, the Heavenly God sect master, who is comparable to a ruler, can only find this scrap metal low-grade true artifact after rummaging through all your belongings. Old ancestor Binding's son laughed wildly, full of disdain and arrogance. You want to fight this old man with just this? He suddenly attacked. Chapter 1322. Boom. A vast energy surged like waves, and the building seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. Many enchanted talisman arrays shot into the sky. The curtains on the windows and the door were blown away, as if the recoil of a heavy cannon had been fired, causing the enormous building to shake violently and move back more than half a meter. A bright beam of light shot out from the cloud tower. The golden light was dazzling, and it carried an eternal and indestructible aura. It was like a huge cannon shooting through the sky. The beam of light was extremely fast. It instantly broke through 10 times the speed of sound and kept increasing, so much so that no one could see it with their eyes. In that instant, there was nothing left in the world except for the sharp and dazzling golden light. It was as if the world had been cut in two. Even the entire city and all the defensive formations would be pierced through. This was only a single ray of light, A single flick of Patriarch Binding Sun's finger. Everyone's face paled. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun's power had already surpassed this world. No one could compare to him. Break! Bai Zai's sleeves fluttered as he took a step forward and slashed with his sword. Boom! In the sky, a series of python-like lightning bolts fell, and the sword chi was like a long river that poured down in torrents. It was like a sword screen that was indestructible, protecting the many heavenly star cultivators. Sword thunder! Clang! The golden finger aura hit the sword barrier and let out an earth-shattering explosion. Boundless Zhen Yuan swept through the 9 heavens and 10 earths like raging waves. All of a sudden, a huge crater with a radius of a few miles appeared right below Yi Chen. Countless rocks and trees were crushed into pieces. Rubble pierced through the air, and wood shavings flew everywhere. 10 li away, the tens of meters thick city walls of the desolate city trembled violently. Huge cracks appeared on them, which was a ghastly sight. Mushroom clouds that were thousands of meters tall rose into the air above the point of impact. If this attack were to happen on Earth, it would definitely stun everyone. Its power was even greater than a few standard nuclear weapons. Bai Zai took a step back and his face turned red. He spat out a mouthful of deity's ruins. The next second, the sword screen could no longer hold on and shattered. Bai Zai and the others were sent flying 1,000 meters away by the surging airwaves. Although he had received guidance from Jiang Tian and cultivated authentic immortal cultivation techniques, he had just recovered from serious injuries and was only at the nascent soul realm. On the other hand, old ancestor Han Yuanying was in the early stage of the nascent soul realm. He could control the heavens and earth, and his words were law. His divine abilities were unfathomable, and his surging magic power was boundless and deep to the extreme. Bai Zai, if you submit to me and hand over this continent, I will pardon your sins and put you in an important position. Chen Liuhe smiled proudly and looked down at Bai Zai as if he was looking at an ant. A loyal subject does not serve 2 masters. I, Bai Zai, will only recognize Kong Teichu as my master. Bai Zai wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His fighting spirit rose sharply, and his eyes shone with a sharp and tenacious light. Who do you think you are, Chen Liuhe? You're worse than a dog. You're not even fit to lick my toes. You want me to surrender to you? Dream on. This time, he directly soared into the sky, waved the mountain-breaking sword, and used the astral steps to summon endless lightning. Streaks of lightning and thunderclouds in the shape of dragons, phoenixes, and tigers descended with bared fangs and brandished claws. The sky immediately became a sea of lightning. Lightning surged and rolled, striking towards the beast head cloud tower. He summoned the heavenly lightning in the sky and turned it into an attack. He wanted to turn old ancestor Fu Ri, Chen Liuhe, and the others into ashes and kill them all. Chen Liuhe and the others were shocked. Some turned into light and flew away, while others took out their lightning-resistant Dharma treasures. Bai Zai, although you're a beast, you've lived in the Red Thunder Mountain for a long time. You've actually comprehended the laws of lightning. You're really talented, old ancestor Fu Ri said calmly in the depths of the Beasthead Cloud Tower. But the next moment, his tone became sarcastic. But you don't know the power of a nascent soul realm overlord. Once the Forbidden Zone is formed, everything will be under my control. What can lightning do to me? The invisible force of the Forbidden Zone filled the world again. In front of everyone's astonished eyes. They saw it. Many terrifying lightning dragons and sea of lightning froze in the air in an instant. They were still dazzling, and they were still in the posture of slashing down. However, they were all motionless, as if they were abstract works of art. Then old ancestor Fu Ri attacked for the first time. He only struck with his palm. This palm strike looked ordinary and was formed purely from quintessence. However, it was extremely dense and indestructible. After it shattered the many lightning bolts, the palm strike landed on Bai Zai's chest. Bang! Bai Zai's sword screen was directly shattered, and even his true artifact mountain-breaking sword had cracks on it. His entire body was like a rubber ball that had been slapped away, exploding several thousand meters away. With a clang, he crashed into the city wall, creating a huge hole. Senior Sect Master. At this moment, Miao Yi Fairy, Jiang Yunhe and Xiao Yingluo exclaimed. Ding Lai's expression was even more solemn. It's just a minor injury. I can still fight. Bai Zhe flew out. He was covered in blood and had countless broken bones, but his eyes were still resolute and full of battle intent. He was ready to die. The attack of a nascent soul expert was extremely terrifying. Even though Bai Zhe had taken spirit pills, his wounds and fractures couldn't heal. Old Ancestor Fu Ri's Forbidden Zone's Dharma power was dense and formed a continuous destructive force. Bai Zhe, you're courting death. Do you know that I've already shown you mercy? Otherwise, you wouldn't be alive. Chen Liu has said again. The Stellar Sky Domain would rather die than retreat. In this world, only the absolute Primordium Dominator can make us bow. Xiao Yingluo stepped forward. Ding Lai, Jiang Yunhe, Miao Yi Fairy, and Zen Master Dexin all stepped forward, their eyes filled with determination. You've already exhausted my patience. You think too highly of yourselves, but you don't know that there are countless golden cores in the Jade Lake. Since you're so stubborn, why do I have to take you little cats and dogs? Old Ancestor Binding's son gave up on trying to persuade him. His tone gradually turned solemn. Suddenly, he thrust out a palm and said coldly, Since you're courting death, then die. Forbidden Zone. The art of destruction. When this palm came down, what everyone felt was not a suppressive force, but a terrifying tearing force. It was as if their limbs and heads were being pulled by invisible giant dragons that wanted to tear them apart. The force was so strong that it was unstoppable. In this area, in the void, terrifying spatial cracks suddenly appeared, like broken and entangled spiderwebs, like giant pythons slithering in all directions, the sharp spatial fragments cutting through everything. Bang! Jiang Yunhe's arm was broken and blood gushed out. Then, the cultivators were torn apart and exploded inch by inch. A few golden core demon cultivators even had their tough bodies and immortal golden cores torn apart and exploded in the air. Seeing the giant palm getting closer and closer, and the power of the art of destruction completely enveloped them, everyone looked desperate. We've lost in the end. Miao Yi Fairy sighed with tears in her eyes. I'm not afraid of death, but I've let down the absolute Primordium Dominator. Ding Lai shook his head bitterly. Is this the end? Xiao Yingluo lowered her head with tears in her eyes. But the enemy came too quickly. If I had 10 more years, I could have destroyed the ruins of deity. Bai Zhe gritted his teeth and looked at the giant palm in the sky with hatred and indignation, but in the end he slowly closed his eyes. Long live the ancestral patriarch. Cultivators of Heaven Star are as weak as ants. They can't even withstand a single blow. Ha! This is the result of your stubborn resistance. You'll die without a complete corpse. Many Jade Lake cultivators, on the other hand, were laughing wildly to their heart's content. Old Ancestor Fu Ri had crushed everything. With Bai Zhe and Ding Lai dead, this battle would end with Heaven Star's defeat. From now on, Heaven Star belongs to Jade Lake. We're only one step away from attacking Earth. Chen Liuhe flung his sleeves and stood with his hands behind his back. There's only one Foundation Establishment cultivator on Earth, Kong Teichu. He can't even withstand a single blow. Earth is now in our hands. A general in dark gold armor spoke with a smile. His back was as straight as a sword, and his gaze was piercingly cold. He was filled with heroic spirit, and he revealed a complacent expression. Kill! There were also many Golden Core generals who held golden halberds in their hands and attacked the Heavenly Star cultivators. Kill them all. Don't let any of them escape. On the Jade Lake side, the Golden Core cultivators unleashed their 1,000-meter Dharma forms and attacked the Heaven Star cultivators with ruthless eyes. While the cultivators of Heaven Star were in a desperate situation and were about to be destroyed. All of a sudden, a sharp sword light that was like a shocking rainbow cut through the heavens and the earth, split open space, and tore through the sky from afar. This sword had once been in the hands of an ancient cultivator. It had cut open the ancient path of the universe and then reappeared in the world. Once the sword was released, the temperature suddenly dropped and snow fell in 100 miles. The sun, the moon, and the sky seemed to be about to be cut open by the sword. "How dare you kill Kong Techu's men?" A cold and stern shout, like a cold wind blowing down from a 10,000-year-old iceberg, came from afar. Chapter 1323. Giant cracks appeared in the dimension where the sword aura passed, shattering ancestral patriarch Binding Sun's forbidden realm and the great collapsing art. That unbreakable forbidden domain was instantly as fragile as paper, and it was easily destroyed. A painful groan came from the cloud tower. Ancestral patriarch Binding Sun had been attacked by the forbidden realm. Chen Liuhe and the other cultivators were also frightened by the sword aura. They staggered backward, and some golden core cultivators even knelt on the ground, trembling. After destroying Patriarch Binding Sun's forbidden realm, the flying sword spun around in a dazzling manner. After killing 3 golden core stage cultivators, it floated silently in the air between the two armies. This treasured sword's sword light was restrained and its sharpness was hidden. It was dull and lusterless. It was quiet and didn't seem strange at all. However, it was as if this sword could sweep through the heavens and crush the earth. It made Chen Liuhe and the other nascent soul cultivators feel suffocated, and their expressions turned serious. After all, that was the sword that had broken ancestral patriarch Binding Sun's forbidden realm and killed 3 golden core cultivators. This was too heaven-defying and powerful. Many Jade Lake cultivators were startled and looked at the flying sword. A nascent soul cultivator? Who's that? Even ancestral patriarch Binding Sun didn't dare to be careless. He released his immortal will and scanned the area. He saw the Jade Lake army behind him exploded like firecrackers. It was a young man in a white outfit. He had black hair and black eyes, and every step he took created ripples in the air. He was like an ancient true god. With every step he took, hundreds or even thousands of Jade Lake cultivators would be turned into a bloody mist. They died an unnatural death, and even an army formation was destroyed. The void trembled, the earth quaked, and the mountains shook. The bronze battleships, flying boats and chariots, which were more than 100 feet long and had countless arrays engraved on them and could withstand dozens of nuclear explosions, cracked and fell to the ground. They were then turned into scrap metal by the reactors and bloomed in the air like fireworks. Who is he? The power of a single kick is actually so terrifying. How can he be so powerful? He must have the power of a nascent soul cultivator. All of a sudden, the cultivators of the Jade Lake were horrified, and they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Retreat! All of them were terrified to the point their souls almost left their bodies, and they were terrified like stray dogs. They didn't dare continue fighting, and they retreated like tide water to open up a path. It's Kong Techu. How could he be so powerful? Isn't it Foundation Establishment? On the Beast Head Cloud Tower, a golden core cultivator finally recognized Jiang Tian. He couldn't help but turn pale with fright and disbelief. Invading a world was not a small matter. Even if they thought that they had a high chance of winning, they had still done careful and in-depth research. They had studied Jiang Tian's information, but in the end, they determined that Jiang Tian's strength was only at the Golden Core realm, and there was nothing to worry about. But at this moment, Jiang Tian's attack was so shocking. He's a Golden Core cultivator, and an early Golden Core cultivator. Chen Liuhe stared at Jiang Tian in disbelief. But his sword technique clearly contained the power of a forbidden domain. His strength doesn't match his cultivation. It's Brother Jiang. Brother Jiang is back. Xiao Yingluo stared blankly at Jiang Tian's figure and murmured. At this moment, it was as if the tens of thousands of soldiers in the world had disappeared. The mountains, rivers, grass, and trees, the clouds, and the wind had all disappeared. All that was left was the back of the figure that was walking towards them step by step. That figure was tall and dignified, as if he could support the world. That figure was warm and responsible, as if he could shelter her under his broad wings, and she wouldn't be hurt at all. The Grand Primordium ruler is back. Jiang Yunhe held his broken arm and roared to the sky. His mind relaxed and he fell to the ground. For some reason, the moment he saw Jiang Tian, he felt that everything was stable and nothing could stop him. The Grand Primordium Ruler. The ruler is back and defeated the army. We're saved. At this moment, thousands of cultivators in the entire border city, regardless of whether they were human or demon cultivators, were roaring in joy. Grand Primordium Ruler, you're finally back. In the city, hundreds of millions of mortals exploded like ice cubes thrown into a pot of hot oil. Then, they crawled on the ground and knelt down to Jiang Tian's figure. He's back. He's finally back. Even Fairy Miao Yi, who had a steady and shy personality, broke into a smile as she waved her arms and cheered loudly, with tears rolling down her cheeks. I knew he would come back. We agreed that we would conquer the universe together. Bai Zhe coughed blood with his fist in his mouth, but he roared to the sky with eyes full of joy. How did he become so powerful? Is he really the Grand Primordium Ruler? Ling Dang, that girl, was also rescued by him. Ding Lai was still dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Boom, boom, boom. Jiang Tian took 13 steps in a row, and with each step, he destroyed 13 military formations of the Jade Lake, killing 13 Golden Core Realm generals. Wherever the sword aura passed, there were explosions and airwaves. Even a Golden Core Overlord couldn't withstand it for more than a second. He was really killing people like cutting grass. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Tian had traversed 10 miles, tearing apart the indestructible army formation, and smashing the entire Jade Lake army into pieces, completely routed. Countless cultivators of Jade Lake cried and ran away, wishing that their parents hadn't given them an extra pair of legs. Soon, the area outside the desolate border city turned into hell. At least 50,000 cultivators of the Jade Lake died like raindrops. The ground was covered with broken limbs, warships, weapons, and magic treasures. Blood flowed like a river. Flames lingered in the air. Black smoke mixed with a pungent blood fog soared into the sky like smoke signals of spiritual energy. Jiang Tian stepped on a pool of blood and corpses as he arrived. His ferocious aura overflowed into the sky. He was like a demonic god that had descended, bringing Ding Lingdang with him. Kongtu, it's you. Chen Liuhe narrowed his eyes as if he were facing a formidable enemy. Even Ancestor Hun Bingri in the Cloud Tower told everyone to be careful. No one expected that Kong Teichu, who should be trembling in fear on earth, would dare to go against the heavens and defeat the army of 100,000 cultivators of Jade Lake. This was simply unimaginable. Everyone, thank you for your hard work. Jiang Tian ignored Chen Liuhe and went to the Heavenly Star Overlord's camp and looked at Jiang Yunhe's broken arm. He took Jiang Yunhe's broken arm and used the creation of all things mysterious art to repair it. Ruler, it's not hard at all. Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you and waited for your return. Jiang Yunhe half knelt in the air and bowed his head. Although he tried to hold it in, hot tears still flowed out. His father, Jiang Haishan, and dozens of clan relatives had died in the war, but he had never cried. Now his tears fell like rain. They were tears of joy because he saw hope. The hope to protect Star World and defeat Jade Lake's experts. Get up. There's no need for formalities on the battlefield. Jiang Tian revealed a look of joy. Jiang Yunhe used to be frivolous and flashy, but now he had become a true cultivator, a warrior, and his Tao heart was as stable as a rock. It could be seen that only suffering and tempering could make people grow. Master, we're all fine. Jade Lake's cultivators want to destroy us? That's a fool's dream. They're still too far away. Bai Zhe laughed. Although he was still coughing up blood, his face was full of ecstasy. I have the bloodline of a demon beast and my body is tough. I can still hold on for a few more years. Xiao Yingluo, Miao Yi, and the other female cultivators also tried their best to hold back their tears, but their eyes were red and sparkling. You're good to be able to hold on until now. Don't worry, after today, the war will be over. I'll avenge you. Jiang Tian nodded in appreciation. Then his eyes turned cold. He turned around and stared at Beast Head Cloud Tower. Evil dogs of Jade Lake, when did I, Kong Taechu, provoke you? You came to snatch my territory, kill my sect members, bully my people, and humiliate my orthodoxy? Do you really think that Kong Taechu is a pushover and easy to bully? As he spoke, a cold smile appeared on his face. He waved at Absolute Heaven Sword and said coldly, "Today, I'll use the blood of Jade Lake's cultivators to declare to the ruins of immortality, to the ruins Emperor, and to the various multidimensional worlds. Those who bully me, Kong Taechu, will be returned 100-fold. I'll kill without mercy. Those who invade my territory will be returned 100,000 feet away. I'll wipe out your entire family." As soon as he said that, Absolute Heaven Sword had already landed in Jiang Tian's hands. Instantly, a murderous and cold sword chi rushed into the sky and shot straight at Absolute Heaven Sword, as if it was going to tear the ground apart and pierce through the sky. Retreat. Set up the array. Set up the array. Seeing this scene, many Jade Lake cultivators were shocked and retreated more than a mile, as if they were facing a great enemy. Chapter 1324. Chen Liuhe's face was dark as he ordered, "Ask Duan Muting to gather all the troops in Wild Wave City and send reinforcements." The cultivator who sent the message was about to leave. Suddenly, Reporting to the Marshal. Wild Wave City has been destroyed. Kong Taechu killed Duan Muting and his son, Shenlang, Hu Songhai and Yuan Zihua, 3 nascent soul cultivators. Tens of thousands of troops have been annihilated. At this time, another messenger general flew into the black beast-headed cloud building and knelt down on one knee to make his report. What? Wild Wave City has been destroyed? Many marshals, generals and cultivators were enraged. Even the nascent soul overlords couldn't believe it. "Kong Taechu, you deserve to die. How dare you kill my army?" Chen Liuhe's eyes were bulging out of their sockets. He flew into a rage. This was an unbearable loss. Originally, he had led the army of cultivators straight in and occupied this world, which would have been a great achievement. He would have won over a few competitors and would have had an advantageous position in the competition for the position of Overlord of the Jade Lake and the Sect Master of the Heavenly Dao Sect. But now he had become a sinner. If his father knew about this, he would be very disappointed in him. Kill him. Hu Songhai's father, the Marshal of the Right Army, Hu Yuanjia, was a nascent soul cultivator. He was calm at first, but then his eyes turned red, as if he were a prehistoric monster. He couldn't live under the same sky as his son was killed. Cultivators were also humans and they had emotions and desires. After hearing that his son had been killed, he had already regarded Jiang Tian as his mortal enemy and wouldn't let him go. "I want to kill him and avenge my son." Huangfu Jiangshan also shouted. He was the lord of the Nether Sky world, a level 4-dimensional world. He had a noble status and a high position. Now, his son Huangfu Pingtian had been beheaded with a single strike and his soul had been destroyed. Moreover, it was by an ant from Earth. How could he endure this? Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun also looked serious. It was the first time he walked out of the building and faced Jiang Tian. Everyone then saw. Patriarch Binding Sun was a middle-aged cultivator in a washed blue robe. He looked to be in his early 40s and had a handsome face with only a few wrinkles. There was nothing strange about him. However, his eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life, as if they had experienced countless years, and contained boundless wisdom and principles. He simply stood in front of the railing and did not release the slightest bit of mana. However, he floated in the air as if he was supposed to be standing there, as if it was natural. A nascent soul heavenly lord had already touched the edge of the laws of heaven and earth. Every move of a nascent soul heavenly lord was in accordance with the laws of heaven and earth. That was why they were called heavenly lords. We welcome old ancestor Binding Sun out of seclusion. Chen Liuhe, Huangfu Jiangshan, Hu Yuanjia, and the other supreme experts all bowed as if they were seeing a deity. Heavenly lords were the most respected beings in the Jade Lake world. Even a dimension world might not have a nascent soul heavenly lord. Worlds like the Heavenly Star world, the Heavenly Kingdom and the Red Field world didn't even have one. There were only a handful of nascent soul overlords in the entire Jade Lake. A nascent soul heavenly lord would be a powerhouse even in the ruins of deity and would be valued by the emperor of the ruins. Any nascent soul cultivator could defeat 100 or more golden core cultivators. Foundation establishment cultivators and chi refinement cultivators were like ants in front of them. So, it wasn't difficult for a nascent soul heavenly lord to wipe out a level 3 or 4-dimension world. Even the sect masters of the large sects and the secondary dominators had to lower their heads in front of ancestral patriarch Binding Sun, who stood at the top of the Jade Lake. Ancestral patriarch Binding Sun nodded and then looked at Jiang Tian with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Kong Teichu is only a golden core cultivator, but he can use the power of the Forbidden Zone. He's a monster. Only a golden core cultivator? If so, he can only use the Forbidden Zone once even if he can use a secret art. Huangfu Jiangshan said, "Ancestor, please stand by the side and support me. I want to crush him with my own hands and avenge my poor son." Only by personally killing his enemy would he be able to dispel the hatred in his heart. He wanted to personally kill Jiang Tian. He's very strange. He made me suffer a loss just now. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun shouted, "Everyone listen to me. Everyone listen to my command." Other than His Highness Lu Yi, all the other Golden Core Paragon and Nascent Soul Cultivators attacked together. The world of cultivators was full of killing and danger. All of them reached the top by stepping on the bones of others. So, in the eyes of the top cultivators, all rules and morals were just decorations. The most important thing was to kill the opponent at all costs. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun knew that even a lion would use all its strength to kill a rabbit. Even though he had a 70% chance of killing Jiang Tian, he didn't dare to be careless. He wanted everyone to attack together and increase the chance of success to 100%. Thus, Ancestral Patriarch. Instantly, killing intent soared into the heavens, filling the area within 100 miles. The Jade Lake army was very powerful and had a lot of trump cards and hidden masters. Even though Jiang Tian had killed more than a dozen Golden Core warriors, 3 nascent soul cultivators and more than a dozen peak-stage Golden Core cultivators flew out and surrounded Jiang Tian after Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun shouted, "Impossible! The Taichu Dominator killed so many people. How can there be so many overlords hiding in the Jade Lake army? We didn't get any information about them at all. 3 nascent soul cultivators and a dozen Golden Core perfected immortals. I'm afraid they can even destroy a city." This scene stunned all the cultivators in planet Tianqing. Even Bai Zhe, Ding Lai, and the other top experts revealed looks of shock. The Jade Lake cultivators had different temperaments and dharma forms. Some were like flames burning the sky, some were as steady as mountains, some were as cold as ice, and some were as violent and bloodthirsty as beasts. However, each and every one of them had an extremely strong and dense Zhenyuan. Above the gigantic dharma figures, a great amount of Zhenyuan rose straight into the sky like a smoke signal. The aura released from them was like a tsunami, pressing down towards Jiang Tian. "Kong Teichu, if I'm willing to surrender, I can spare your life and take you as my disciple. I'll let you and the cultivators of planet Tianqing go and protect the planet Tianqing for the Jade Lake for generations to come. You'll be the highest level slaves of the Jade Lake." Ancestor Binding Sun, who was at the highest point at the end of the battle formation, didn't release his dharma. However, he looked down at Jiang Tian with arrogance, as if he were a god looking at an ant. He considered letting Jiang Tian become his disciple and slave as the greatest gift. 1 nascent soul cultivator, 3 experienced nascent soul cultivators, and 13 peak-stage Golden Core cultivators. "Kong Teichu, do you dare to provoke them?" Just as Chen Liuhe and the others smiled and thought Jiang Tian would yield, Chen Liuhe smiled. However, Jiang Tian didn't even care. He only said one word. "Kill." He immediately swung the absolute sky sword and slashed towards everyone. Jiang Tian stepped into the air, his sword light was sharp and cold to the extreme, and the sword light soared into the sky with a whistling sound. The sword aura was endless and boundless. The power of the immortal artifact was at its maximum. Even a nascent soul cultivator couldn't resist it. At this moment, countless cultivators, whether they were from the Jade Lake or planet Tianqing, were dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Jiang Tian dared to attack with his sword in the face of such a powerful lineup. He was indeed domineering. But Hu Yuanjia, who was eager to take revenge, was at the front and was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. He swayed and shouted. Immediately, his dragon bloodline was activated to the maximum. A giant dragon rhino Dharma form was formed behind him. The Dharma form had the head of a dragon rhino, but it was already in the shape of a human. It was 3,000 feet tall and was full of strength. Its body was covered with dragon scales, like the most indestructible armor. Its defensive power was astonishing and could withstand a few nuclear explosions at close range. The avatar was extremely huge. From afar, it looked like a demon god walking in the sky. It was holding a curved, long blade that was shaped like a rhinoceros horn. It was waving it in the air, releasing countless bright lightning bolts. It looked like it could split a mountain and sink the earth with one strike. It was extremely powerful as it attacked towards Jiang Tian's sea of sword light. The absolute sky sword in Jiang Tian's hand was like a sea of sword aura. It didn't stop at all, as if Pangu had swung a giant axe and split the chaos. Jiang Tian's chaotic divine body was formed and his golden core was formed. He had the power to fight against a nascent soul cultivator. In addition, he had the absolute sky sword, which was passed down from an ancient cultivator. How could Hu Yuanjia, who was only a nascent soul cultivator, compare to him? Clang. The dragon rhino Dharma form had just collided with the sword aura of the absolute sky sword. The dragon rhino Dharma form was like a piece of tofu that had been sliced by a sharp blade. Even though Hu Yuanjia was burning his dantian, using his secret technique to condense the Dharma form and roaring loudly, he still could not change the cruel reality that the Dharma form had been sliced apart. The absolute sky sword still slashed with force, as if it were cutting water with a knife. There was no sense of resistance. After the dragon rhino Dharma form was slashed to pieces, the remaining power of the absolute heaven sword did not decrease. Instead, it became sharper. In the end, the sword slashed through Hu Yuanjia's dantian, cutting his golden elixir, which had already become an infant embryo, into pieces. Boom! Hu Yuanjia's gold core, which was in the state of nascent soul, exploded with a loud boom. His fleshly body, which had been tempered by the physique refinement technique, turned into a rain of sparkling flesh and broken bones that shot in all directions. Even his divine soul was completely destroyed. In the blink of an eye. In less than a second, Hu Yuanjia, a nascent soul cultivator and the commander of the right army, died under Jiang Tian's sword. Until his golden core exploded, his face was still full of shock and disbelief. It seemed that he didn't expect Jiang Tian to kill him so quickly. Hu Yuanjia's death announced the start of this earth-shattering battle that concerned the fate of several dimensional worlds. It also made many overlords of the Jade Lake realize what kind of terrifying and nature-defying existence they were facing. Let's attack together. Seeing this, a cultivator in a green robe stepped out. He had silver hair and a pale face. His eyes were fierce and his body was full of murderous intent. With a wave of his hand, two treasured swords, one purple and one green, soared into the sky from his dantian. They turned into two shocking divine rainbows and charged towards Jiang Tian's sea of sword light. Chapter 1325. The Green-Robed Ancestral Patriarch. He used to be the sect master of the Een Mountain sect in the Jade Lake world. He was a nascent soul cultivator and had the purple and green dual swords Dharma forms. Dharma forms were an extension of the golden core level. Other than divine beasts, there were also weapons, Dharma artifacts and Dharma forms. The purple and green dual swords Dharma forms of the green-robed ancestral patriarch were extremely sharp. Their sword intent was closely connected to their immortal will, and they were invincible. Even the realm lord of the Jade Lake and the sect master of the Tiandao sect had to fight for a few days to defeat him. Until then, he was a grand priest of the Tiandao sect and was highly valued by the sect master. His status was comparable to that of ancestral patriarch Binding Sunday, Me Too. Another nascent soul overlord, Kong Wenxing, also activated his star-shaped Dharma power and attacked the sword aura like a meteorite. Let's fight together. I don't believe we can't break this blade aura. Led by Huangfu Jiangshan, the golden core overlords' dantians rumbled and their golden cores shone. Their Dharma forms expanded one after another and they tried to stop Jiang Tian. In the end, other than ancestral patriarch Binding Sun, who didn't do anything, he stayed outside the array. 2 nascent soul cultivators who were quasi-heavenly lords and 13 perfected immortals who had completed the golden core level attacked at the same time. With such a luxurious lineup working together to resist the enemy, how terrifying would their might be? They were definitely much more powerful than Yuan Zihua and the others at the moment. Be aware. Even though they were all nascent soul cultivators, their power was completely different. The 2 nascent soul cultivators of the green-robed ancestral patriarch had been nascent soul cultivators for decades or even centuries and were only a step away from the nascent soul level, which was why they were called little perfected cultivators and quasi-perfected cultivators. Neither one of them was more powerful than Yuan Zihua and the others who had just entered the nascent soul level a year ago. On top of that, the 13 powerhouses of the Golden Core were attacking at the same time. The raging Qi was about to tear this vast land apart. Rumble! The earth-shattering true essence exploded, shaking the world. Each of their Dharma idols represented a type of attribute and element. They released tens of thousands of multicolored rays of light and thousands of colorful divine rainbows. In the end, the many rays of light merged into one and turned into a huge pillar of light that stretched across the sky. It shot toward Jiang Tian's sea of sword light. This pillar of light was filled with surging vital energy, interweaving and entangling with each other. It even caused spatial cracks to appear and spatial fragments to fly about in all directions. It was extremely powerful, as if it could pierce through the continent. They were all elites under Qinliuhe's command. They often fought together against enemies and were very good at joint attacks. Their combined attacks were comparable to the full-power attack of a mid-stage nascent soul overlord. Even ancestral patriarch Binding Sun wouldn't be able to handle it. Kacha. What was shocking was that this pillar of light actually blocked Jiang Tian's absolute heaven sword light, as if it wanted to shake Jiang Tian's absolute heaven sword back. Kong Teichu, you've burned your blood essence to forcibly activate this sword, surpassing the cultivation of the gold core realm. The consumption must be no small matter. May I ask how many more times can you activate this sword? You'll be dead if you can't use it again. While Qinliuhe was mocking Qinliuhe and ancestral patriarch Binding Sun looked pleased. This is interesting. Jiang Tian only let out a soft sound of surprise. Then, he formed a hand seal with his left hand and pressed it on the handle of the sword. He then yelled, "Return to essence." Within Jiang Tian's dantian, the Milky Way divine disc spun, and a black-scaled Taotai with goat horns bent into 9 bends and 18 bends charged into the sky. This black-scaled Taoya's head was large to the point it was disproportionate to its body and limbs, and it was like a small mountain. Its mouth was wide to the point it split open to the roots of its ears, and its numerous enormous teeth that were like steel blades and swords that had long drool hanging from them, and it revealed a greedy expression as it stared at everyone. Oh no! The Taotai seemed to want to swallow the heavens and the earth, and it was filled with a cruel and terrifying aura. All the Jade Lake's cultivators were startled, and they had a bad feeling. They only felt that the swallowing power was extremely terrifying, as if they were facing the most terrifying black hole in the universe. Their blood, true essence, and even their divine souls were about to be swallowed, and they would never be able to break free. What is that? It's the legendary Taotai. It's just his Dharma form. It's big but useless. It doesn't mean anything. Some of the ancestral patriarchs in green robes turned pale and exclaimed, while others tried to calm themselves down. How dare a bunch of ants guess the power of Kong Teichu. Forget it. Today, I will let you Jade Lake cultivators see what is called true monstrous divine power, and what is called invincible. Hearing this, Jiang Tian suddenly sneered, full of ridicule. Then Jiang Tian yelled, "Return to essence. Taotai returns to its origin, swallow it for me." Boom. The Taotai swooped down and turned into a ray of black light, entering the sky-severing sword. An incomparably deep black vortex suddenly appeared above the absolute heaven sword. An incomparably vast, copious, and irresistible devouring power that seemed to be able to engulf the sun and moon, a power that could tear apart the earth and mountains abruptly took shape. With just a snap of a finger, the huge light column that spanned across the void disappeared and was completely swallowed by the Tao. Only the ancestral patriarchs in green robes and Kong Wenxing were able to withstand it. The other 13 cultivators at the exceptional stage of the Golden Core realm were instantly torn apart and squeezed into pieces, as if they had been caught by a black hole. Even their golden cores were torn apart and turned into profound qi, which flowed into the sky-severing sword and the black hole and disappeared. Before they died, their faces were full of horror and unwillingness, as if they couldn't believe that they had been killed by Jiang Tian so quickly. What? This is the power of swallowing. How can it be so terrifying? The ancestral patriarchs in green robes and Kong Wenxing exclaimed loudly, as if their souls had left their bodies. Then, drops of blood appeared on their bodies and were pulled into thin lines by the power of swallowing, which then flew towards the sky-severing sword. Their skin was trembling like waves. Then, their flesh was torn open, and even their gold cores, which were in the nascent soul stage, seemed to fly out of their bodies uncontrollably. Damn you, Kongti! Seeing so many golden core cultivators die in an instant, ancestral patriarch Binding Sun was terrified and enraged. He had never thought that Jiang Tian would be so powerful. He could kill the peak stage golden core cultivators like killing chickens, so he didn't even have time to help. He immediately extended his hand and cast a forbidden realm towards Jiang Tian's sword of essence restoring, trying to stop the power of swallowing. Binding Sun, do you think this is all I can do? Do you think you can save them? You've underestimated me. Jiang Tian burst into laughter. The divine disk in his dantian spun again and the galaxy shone brightly. Another divine body appeared. The Kunpeng divine body. The giant Kunpeng flapped its wings and seemed to be able to sweep through the 9 heavens and 10 earths. It turned into a bolt of spatial lightning and charged towards Patriarch Binding Sun without hesitation, leaving a trail of spatial cracks in its wake. Poof! Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun's forbidden realm was broken before it could land and he was knocked back with blood spurting out of his mouth. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun was a nascent soul cultivator after all, so it was hard to say who would win against Jiang Tian's divine body. However, Jiang Tian only needed the Kunpeng divine body to buy him time. A few seconds would be enough. Therefore, the Kunpeng divine body only stalled ancestral patriarch Binding Sun for a while and then retreated. After only 3 flicks of the fingers, the green-robed ancestor and Kong Wenxing could not hold on any longer. The star and azulate swords were completely destroyed. The 2 golden cores flew out of their bodies with a bloody mist and were swallowed by the black Taotai vortex. After that, their bodies exploded apart as well, and they transformed into crystalline flesh and broken bones that were like jade before they were completely devoured. At this moment, the entire area within a 100-mile radius of the city was in dead silence. The Tao Ye's origin-returning godly body sucked in 2 nascent soul formation stage experts and 13 golden core perfection stage experts into oblivion. All the cultivators and mortals present, whether they were from the Jade Lake or planet Tianxing, were terrified by this scene, as if they had seen a true god. That was 2 quasi-perfected cultivators and 13 perfected immortals. How terrifying was that? The most powerful ancestral patriarch in green robe had formed a golden core sword and the purple-green sword dharma forms were comparable to real nascent soul cultivators. As for the second most powerful one, Kong Wenxing, he had comprehended the power of the stars and was said to be able to fight with a first-level nascent soul cultivator. Even with such an amazing lineup, they couldn't last more than 10 seconds under Jiang Tian's attack. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun was also helping them, so they couldn't stop him. How terrifying was Jiang Tian's current power? How shocking was that? It made everyone suck in a breath of cold air as if they had a toothache. They're all dead. Chen Liuhe's eyes were wide open and he couldn't believe it. He felt like his heart was being stabbed and his voice was trembling. Those were his direct subordinates, who he relied on to fight for power. Now, they were all dead, making him a general without an army. How could he not be heartbroken? He's too powerful. How does he have so many Dharma forms? And they all control the power of space. Even Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun was dumbfounded. His hands trembled as if he had seen a demon, not to mention them. Chapter 1326. Chen Liuhe, you just asked the Taichu Dominator to submit to you and called us ants. What about now? When Bai Zhe saw this, he laughed out loud. He was delighted and mocked to the best of his ability. Chen Liuhe, you've finally seen what a real overlord is like, right? You've opened your eyes. You're just a frog at the bottom of a well. Ding Lai, Jiang Yunhe and the other cultivators of planet Tianxing were elated. They felt as if the dark clouds in their hearts had been swept away. Brother Jiang won. Brother Jiang is invincible. The little girl, Xiao Yingluo, waved her fists and cheered for Jiang Tian. Father, can your spirit in heaven see this? The Taichu Dominator has avenged you. Jiang Yunhe even shed tears. He felt that the Jiang family's sacrifice and perseverance had finally paid off. Chen Liuhe, Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun, didn't you say that it's fair for the strong to bully the weak? How do you feel now that you've been defeated and humiliated? Even the shy and introverted fairy Miao Yi looked at him with disdain and mocked him. Her heart was filled with joy. Kong Taichu only defeated a few nascent soul cultivators. We still have Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun. At this moment, Chen Liuhe's face was twisted as if he had eaten a fly. He shouted coldly, Kong Taichu won't be able to resist Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun. Besides, we still have a few grand perfected cultivators. Really? Let's wait and see. Goddess Miao Yi said coldly. Kong Taichu, you deserve to die. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun shouted furiously. He was a nascent soul heavenly lord and the elder of the Tiandao sect. He was invincible in the Jade Lake world. However, in his eyes, Jiang Tian was just an ant in the wasteland. He had actually forced him back with a single strike and killed many of his close friends. This was something he could not accept no matter what. Jiang Tian was only at the early stage of the elixir realm. Moreover, he came from the earth realm, which had no spiritual qi. Yet, he was able to force him to retreat and kill so many people. If what happened today was spread to the Jade Lake, it could be said that even if the sect master of the Heavenly Road sect didn't do anything to him, he wouldn't have the face to stand in this world. Old bastard Fury, it's finally your turn. Jiang Tian's eyes were as sharp as swords as he stared at Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sunday. His battle intent soared again and his killing intent surged. Kong Taichu, you will die today. Patriarch Binding Sun roared and suddenly reached out to grab Jiang Tian. He roared, today, with the tassel in my hand, I can bind the Azure Dragon. Boom. Space fluctuated as an incomparably vast and terrifying restrictive force was formed. Everything in the world instantly stopped. It was as if there was a long tassel in one's hand, capable of locking down space and sealing everything. Even if an Azure Dragon was here, it wouldn't be able to move. It would be confined and locked down, turning into a dead snake with a broken rope. Break! Jiang Tian frowned and shouted. He waved his sword and activated the Kunping Divine Body, breaking all the restrictive space. Nothing could stop him. The forbidden space cracked and Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun flew back a dozen meters. He didn't expect Jiang Tian's Kunping Divine Body to be so terrifying. Not only him, but many other cultivators were shocked. Jiang Tian was only a golden core cultivator, but he was able to break the forbidden space of a nascent soul heavenly lord. This was like a legend. Kong Taichu, don't be so smug. This battle isn't over yet. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun roared and attacked again. Binding Sun net. Instantly, a giant net with a radius of 1 mile appeared. Every thread was glittering like a fishing net. It fell like a net and covered Jiang Tian's head. This net was completely formed by the laws of space and resonated with the world. The threads were like beautiful jade, shining brightly like a net of light. However, it contained a powerful energy that was 10 times more terrifying than the forbidden space of Chang'ing. It seemed to be able to trap the world, cut the world and tear everything apart. Be careful, Taichu Dominator. Bai Zhe, Ding Lai, and the others all cried out in alarm, worried for Jiang Tian. Everything in the world had its own laws and rules. Normal nascent soul heavenly lords could only understand 1 or 2 of them. However, he only needed to comprehend 1 or 2 Daos before he would be able to reach the pinnacle and transcend the mortal world. His every move would be able to form a great destructive force that was 10 times or even 100 times stronger than any other Abhijna, Vital Chi, or Dharma form. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun used the net, Tao he had comprehended. He controlled the laws within and used it as a foundation to form a giant forbidden space. Once the net was cast, it seemed to be able to trap the sun and the moon and lock the world. It could easily tear apart Golden Core and nascent soul overlords. With this move, he could be called a Tao ancestor and stand at the top of the Jade Lake world. Even the sect master of the Tiandao sect had to be careful. You're too weak. Unfortunately, the binding net that shook the Jade Lake was just child's play in Jiang Tian's eyes. Then, within Jiang Tian's dantian, the divine disc spun, and a resplendent Kuan-Peng formed behind Jiang Tian. This Kuan-Peng was completely formed by the resplendent stars, and it was about 1,000 meters tall. Its pair of gigantic wings were like heavenly blades, covering the sky and covering the sun. It was as if it could break through space, attack the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and soar through the 10,000 realms. The energy of the Kuan-Peng Dharma form was extremely terrifying, but it only appeared for a second. It then turned into a beam of light and went into the sky-severing sword. He swung the sword. As he swung his sword, a sword beam in the shape of a Kuan-Peng slashed out. The Kuan-Peng sword beam instantly twisted and transformed into a resplendent golden pillar of light. It formed a terrifying space-breaking power that seemed capable of ripping apart the sky, splitting the earth, and ripping apart the universe as it slashed towards the Fu-Ri net. That slash had used the power of the Kuan-Peng from Jiang Tian's chaotic divine disc and was unimaginably powerful. The ground under Jiang Tian and Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun cracked, creating a giant gully that was dozens of miles long and a mile wide. The indestructible Binding Sun net was completely formed by Dharma laws. Under this sword strike, they were as weak as paper, and they were torn apart inch by inch. The laws turned into fragments that shot out violently and boiled before finally exploding with a bang. As for Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sunday, the Kuan-Peng's destructive power was too strong and its speed was too fast. He didn't even have time to dodge before his Dharma body was split in half. At that moment, both inside and outside of Desolate City, there was a deathly silence. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the figure in the sky, whose robes fluttered in the wind. He held a long sword in his hand and cut through the world. They felt as if a true god had descended. How is that possible? Our Ancestral Patriarch is a first-level nascent soul cultivator who has formed a Dharma body. How could he be killed by an ant from Earth? This can't be. Many cultivators of Jade Lake were dumbfounded. After a long time, Chenlioha finally spoke with a trembling body and a trembling voice, his face deathly pale. The arrogance and condescension in his eyes were replaced by deep fear. From the beginning to the end, even when he saw Jiang Tian destroy the army formation, heard that the Wild Wave City was destroyed, and even witnessed the 2 nascent soul stage experts and many gold core stage experts being crushed by Jiang Tian, he was not as terrified and shocked as he was now. That was a nascent soul heavenly lord. Even in the entire Jade Lake, there were only a few of them, and they were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Some of the weaker third-level worlds didn't even have a nascent soul cultivator. Even in the ruins of deity, any family or sect would be proud if they had a nascent soul cultivator. They would definitely open their doors and invite all their friends to tell the world about it. Once a family or sect had a nascent soul cultivator, their power would immediately soar and they would become a large family. They would be valued by the emperor of the ruins and be given land and resources. And yet, such a peerless overlord had been killed by Jiang Tian/. In fact, Patriarch Fu Ri was their greatest weapon. The other nascent soul cultivators, golden core cultivators, and the Jade Lake army were all here to gain experience. If Patriarch Fu Ri didn't hold back, this world would have been conquered long ago. Many cultivators of Jade Lake were startled and their legs trembled. They couldn't wait to run away from this dangerous place. Did Big Brother Jiang use this? Xiao Yingluo and Miao Yi Fairy were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. Oh my god! That slash is too powerful. It contains even more powerful Dharma laws. It can break the dimension forbidden region and the laws. Its speed, strength, and angle are all impeccable. Its lethality is terrifying to the extreme. Ding Lai's hands trembled as he shouted with a fanatical expression. The Lord of the Taichu sect is so powerful. I'm afraid that even my master, the sect master of the divine heavens, wouldn't be able to withstand it. Bai Zhe was also terrified. Does that mean that we finally have a heavenly lord in planet Tianxing? The cultivators of planet Tianxing were all excited after hearing that. They looked at Jiang Tian with admiration and their minds were stirred. The most shocked person was ancestral patriarch Fu Ri himself. The difference between a nascent soul cultivator and a golden core cultivator was like the difference between a mortal and a deity. Not to mention the amount of true essence. A nascent soul cultivator had already touched the laws of heaven and earth and formed a forbidden region. His body wasn't made of flesh and blood anymore, but was formed with laws. His Dharma form and his body had become one, as if he had reached another level of life. The laws of Dharma laws and the power of a forbidden region were incomparable to the Dharma form, divine powers and body of a golden core cultivator. The difference in power was too great and there was no way to resist it. Kong Teichu, how dare you hurt me? Ancestral Patriarch Fu Ri yelled with hatred and indignation. This furious roar was like a thunderclap that shook the world. It tore apart mountains and rivers and shattered the earth. Everything within a radius of 50 kilometers trembled without end. Chapter 1327. After all, ancestral patriarch Binding Sun was a nascent soul overlord who was full of vitality and divine powers. He wouldn't die that easily. A golden core was formed by pure true essence, while a nascent soul was formed by the combination of energy and spirit. It was like a second life and its vitality was 100 times greater than that of a golden core. After being severely injured, he formed a new body with his Dharma power and took out 5 true artifacts at the same time. Immediately, a multicolored light barrier enveloped him completely. Each of them had reached the level of a true artifact and were priceless. They could withstand several close-range nuclear explosions. But Jiang Tian/ was even more terrifying. The Dharma power formed by the Kunpeng was still in the mark and couldn't be erased. Those sword scars were formed by tiny Kunpengs. They danced around the wound, exploded, and then condensed again. The cycle repeated itself endlessly. With this method, the wound would never be able to heal completely. You can withstand my slash. However, Jiang Tian's face was filled with shock and disappointment as he shook his head. He had just used the sky-cracking dome, the deity artifact, the sky-extinguishing sword, a divine-grade golden core and the Kunpeng divine body. Not even a nascent soul cultivator could withstand it. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun didn't die because his Dharma power was too strong. If Fiend Ancient Lake was there, he would have already died. However, Jiang Tian's expression made Qin Liuhe and the cultivators of the Jade Lake think that Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun should have been killed. Kong Teichu, you've successfully infuriated me. Today, I'll crush your bones and scatter your ashes. I'll extract your divine soul and torture you every day. I'll let you watch as I break into earth and feed your parents to the dogs. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun was enraged and yelled, "Rumble!" He burned his nascent soul and turned into a ray of light. His Dharma power surged towards Jiang Tian like a river. This time, he didn't hesitate to burn his nascent soul. His magic power was 10 times stronger than before, and he was already attacking with all his strength. Even if he killed Jiang Tian, his strength would drop by a level, or even fall out of the nascent soul realm. "Him, you can't even get past me, and you still want to break through the earth realm? What are you dreaming about?" Jiang Tian's face was full of mockery. He raised the absolute heaven sword and swung it down like a knife cutting through water. "Him, the same old trick again. Do you think you can kill me?" Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun sneered. Jiang Tian's Sky Splitter was the power to split open space. Patriarch Binding Sun had long since anticipated this, so he retracted his true essence as much as he could in an attempt to resist the splitting power. How can this be? It's a completely different dimension power. But in the next moment, Patriarch Binding Sun turned pale with fright, as if he had seen a demon. He never thought that Jiang Tian's sword slash would be an extremely terrifying devouring and compressing power. Patriarch Binding Sun felt as if a black hole had appeared in his body. Or, it was more accurate to say that there was a mountain pressing down on him. This kind of power was abundant and hard to resist. He felt as though his spirit embryo was about to collapse and his indestructible nascent soul was about to be crushed. At this moment, his face was filled with shock, and there were traces of confusion in the depths of his eyes. He couldn't understand at all. Even the most powerful nascent soul overlords could only comprehend 1 or 2 types of laws and form a forbidden zone. However, the power of Jiang Tian's forbidden domain was completely different from the sky-splitting dome from before. It was even the opposite. But he didn't know. On Jiang Tian's godly plate, there were 9 galaxies that corresponded to 9 different types of godly bodies. They represented 9 completely different types of laws and principles. At this moment, Jiang Tian was using the Taotai origin returning godly body. The law of devouring was several times stronger than the darkest stone steel before it was refined. How can this be? Patriarch Binding Sun wanted to flee, but he couldn't move at all. His crimson-red eyes were instantly filled with anxiety, terror, rage, and defeat. His hair and beard fluttered in the wind as he roared like a madman. Explode! He changed his cultivation technique and burned his nascent soul blood again. Instantly, the spirit embryo rumbled and trembled. Rolling true essence was pushed out from the spirit embryo in the form of ribbons, flowing out like a huge river. It was also like countless huge dragons soaring and dancing in the sky, as though they were holding up heaven and earth, trying to break free from the terrifying devouring and compressing force. Create chaos and divide yin and yang. Jiang Tian chuckled, feeling that his scheme had succeeded. Then he swung his sword again. This sword was like an antelope hanging its horn, untraceable. The sword slashed across the sky, creating chaos and dividing yin and yang. The laws and power in Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun's spirit embryo changed from origin returning to chaos. It was like the Big Bang. To Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun, it was like a spring that had been compressed to the extreme. The pressure suddenly disappeared and power was released. There was even an external force tearing and cutting. Under Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun's desperate roar, his nascent soul expanded, cracked and exploded in all directions uncontrollably. His Dharma body kept expanding, and many laws were distorted and boiled. In the end, even his spirit embryo burst apart along with his corporeal body, turning into a rain of sparkling flesh, broken bones, and broken jade that scattered down. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun, dead. This is so satisfying. Jiang Tian held the sword in his hand and felt extremely comfortable. He couldn't help but laugh. Last time, he had a hard time fighting Gu Hu, who was in the early stage of the nascent soul realm, at the Tunguska demonic lake. He even had to sneak attack and use many Dharma treasures. Although he could win with Dharma treasures, they were foreign objects after all. He couldn't control them as easily as he did now. The Grand Primordium Dominator won. Fairy Miao Yi, Jiang Yunhe, Ding Lai and the other cultivators were dumbfounded. They were extremely shocked. This was a real nascent soul realm cultivator. He had comprehended the laws of long tassels and net and formed a forbidden area. He was also a talented nascent soul cultivator. All golden core cultivators were as weak as ants in front of such an overlord. But now, Jiang Tian, who was only a golden core cultivator, had killed him easily in a few rounds. It was like a legend. It was unbelievable. Ah, I thought I could suppress him for a while with my cultivation level and call him brother. Looks like I can only call him master in the future. His progress is too terrifying. It was even to the extent that Bai Zhe was greatly shocked and extremely shocked. After that, he revealed a resentful expression as he spoke with envy and jealousy. Brother Jiang is too powerful. Qiao Yingluo waved her fists and shouted. Then, she put her hands on her hips and said proudly, Chen Liuhe, didn't you say ancestral patriarch Binding Sun was very powerful? Why is he so weak? Chen Liuhe, didn't you say our overlords were weak? Who's weak now? Is your face swollen? Fairy Miao Yi also sneered. Even ancestral patriarch Binding Sun is no match for him? Retreat. Chen Liuhe was startled. He didn't have time to care about everyone's mockery. He gritted his teeth and made a prompt decision to escape in the direction of Star Capital under the protection of a few golden core cultivators. You should have run a long time ago. Isn't it a bit too late to run now? Seeing this, Jiang Tian's face was full of mockery. He lightly shook his head, sighed and slashed out again. Crack! It flashed across the sky like a bolt of lightning. A terrifying line of blood appeared from Chen Liuhe's head to toe. His golden core and dantian were split in half and then exploded in the air. But his divine soul was immediately captured by Jiang Tian's soul swallow. Run! Our commander is dead. The remaining members of the Jade Lake army were terrified. They ran in all directions like headless flies, but Jiang Tian punched and kicked them. In the distance, ancestral patriarch True Dragon flew over with Long Yanan and the Black Dog. They were all dumbfounded when they saw this. He destroyed the Jade Lake army so quickly? He even killed that nascent soul ancestral patriarch? Is the chaotic divine body so terrifying? Ancestral patriarch True Dragon couldn't stop trembling in fear. Ancestral patriarch Binding Sun had lived for 1,000 years, but he had reached the nascent soul level before him, so he must be extraordinary. He was worried that Jiang Tian might not be able to deal with it. Therefore, after using a thunderous method to suppress the Wild Wave City, he immediately rushed over, wanting to lend Jiang Tian a hand. He had brought Long Yanan here to use her as a threat to force the Jade Lake army to retreat. What he didn't expect was that when he arrived, Jiang Tian had already finished the battle and even killed the hidden nascent soul cultivator. We're doomed. Now I've become a prisoner. Long Yanan, on the other hand, had a bitter expression on her face. Her teeth chattered like machine guns as she muttered with a sobbing tone. She felt dizzy and her legs went soft. She almost fell. She knew the strength of the Jade Lake army and thought that Jiang Tian would definitely die if he attacked alone. Then she would have a chance of survival, but she didn't expect this outcome. The large black dog rolled his eyes and said gloomily, "This master is not very good. He destroyed so many golden core cultivators. What a waste of resources." Chapter 1328. The news that the Taichu ruler had returned and killed ancestor Tai Ri and Chen Liuhe outside the barren city and annihilated the entire Jade Lake army swept across the entire Heavenly Star continent like a hurricane, shocking countless people. Star Capital City. It was located under the Heavenly Star Palace and was also the most prosperous city on this continent. It was now one of the most important bases of the Jade Lake army. The main branch of the Mandarin Duck House had always been popular. Not only were there many spirit herbs, spirit pills, dharma treasures, cultivation arts and other cultivation resources traded here, but there were also many beautiful female cultivators serving them. There were even cultivation furnaces for sale, which made it the favorite place of Star World's cultivators. But the most famous thing about this place was that it was an information broker. It was said that behind the Mandarin Duck House, there were more than a dozen famous chambers of commerce from Jade Lake and Heavenly Star. They spent a lot of money to hire a few artifact masters to build long-range sound transmission arrays in hundreds of branches of the Mandarin Duck House. Relying on these long-distance sound transmission arrays, basically, any news from this continent could be spread across the entire stellar sky world within a day. But today, although the Mandarin Duck House was still crowded with guests, it was unusually quiet. They didn't trade, play, or chat, they just waited quietly. Even the maids didn't say a word and held their breaths. The cultivators present were almost divided into two distinct groups. On one side were the Jade Lake cultivators. They were all dressed luxuriously and had shiny Dharma artifacts. They were arrogant and sat on a higher floor. On the other side were the Heavenly Star cultivators. Their clothes were shabby and their faces were covered in dust. They were trembling in fear as they curled up in the corner of the hall like they were treading on thin ice, not daring to act rashly. Don't be so nervous, everyone. Kong Taechu may have destroyed Wild Wave City, but that's nothing. You have to know that the army outside the Barren City has a nascent soul cultivator and 4 nascent soul cultivators. A middle-aged cultivator in luxurious clothes was leaning lazily on a soft couch, and he took a sip of immortal tea from a maidservant. Beside him was a female cultivator with a tall figure and a charming gaze, and she was lightly beating his legs, causing him to enjoy it. This Jade Lake cultivator was called Zhuabufan. He was a late-stage Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator and the battalion commander of the Star Capital's investigation camp. He was in charge of hunting and killing cultivators of the Heavenly Star domain who resisted. He could speak directly to the city lord and had quite a status. Not only him, in fact, all cultivators of a certain status Star Capital city were gathered here. There were even Golden Core Realm cultivators and Sect Masters and Patriarch's Masters. This was because a shocking piece of news had already arrived in the morning. Jiang Taichu had returned and broken through the Wild Wave City. No was ignored. News of the Heavenly Star World Continent Army was city. It should be known that since the Jade Lake's invasion, they had been invincible in attacking cities and conquering territories. They had never encountered any decent resistance. Today, Kong Taechu single-handedly defeated the defenders of a giant city and killed many nascent soul and golden core realm cultivators, including Duanmu Ting. This was the first time something like this had happened. Most importantly, following that, another message came. Jiang Taichu immediately left the Wild Wave City and headed towards the desolate border city. The Barren City was the place where the main force of the Jade Lake army gathered. Wasn't Kong Taechu courting death? That's not necessarily true. If Kong Taechu wasn't 100% sure, why would he go to his death? An old Heavenly Star Realm cultivator with a stooped figure and turbid eyes gently shook his head. He was dressed in an old blue cotton robe. He was originally a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator. He had a medium-sized sect, countless treasures, and a happy family. But now, his dantian had been destroyed and his cultivation had fallen to the body-tempering realm. One of his legs had been broken and couldn't be healed. He was no different from an ordinary person and even his sect had been robbed. Normally, he would serve tea and water here, wipe the tables and chairs, greet visitors, and serve Jade Lake's cultivators. He would earn some glittering crystal stones and chewing grains to maintain his livelihood. Humph, Lu Chengfeng, you're dreaming. Nascent soul cultivators are called heavenly lords and killing golden core realm cultivators is like cutting grass. Zhuabufan looked at the old cultivator and said sarcastically, Kong Taechu is a reckless person. He's going to die this time. He's just a frog at the bottom of a well. Humph. Does he think the Jade Lake cultivators are as vulnerable as Heavenly Star cultivators? Yes. Commander Zhua is right. The old man is talking nonsense. Lu Chengfeng didn't say anything else. He nodded and smiled respectfully. He limped forward to add water, but there was a trace of coldness in his eyes. He's just a golden core realm cultivator. In my opinion, If it weren't for the fact that he was holding Fairy Yanin hostage so that others wouldn't attack him for fear of breaking the vases, with his true ability, any deputy general of my Jade Lake army would be able to defeat him. A Jade Lake cultivator slammed the table and shouted. Heavenly Star cultivators are like chickens and dogs. They can't even withstand a single blow. Don't be delusional. Don't think that Kong Taechu can change anything. Just accept your fate. Another Jade Lake cultivator glanced at the servants of the Heavenly Star field and said with a smirk, "Sit. That makes sense. Only the Jade Lake is qualified to be our master." Many Heavenly Star cultivators smiled and nodded. They seemed to have accepted their fate and didn't dare to resist. Here's the news. At this time, a ray of light lit up on the voice transmission platform and turned into a line of words. Everyone held their breath and looked at it. Kong Taechu has arrived at a barren city. He killed Patriarch Binding's son, 3 nascent soul cultivators, and 23 Golden Core Realm cultivators outside the city. The Jade Lake army has been wiped out. The commander-in-chief Chen Liuha has died. What? Jabufan was so shocked that he jumped up when he saw the message. How is this possible? It must have been a mistake. Maybe they just took over a branch of the Mandarin Duck House and spread fake news to confuse the army. The other Jade Lake cultivators were also shocked. They couldn't believe it, as if they had seen a demon. This news was too shocking. To them, it was like hearing an ant overturning an elephant. Stop drinking. Once the Wild Waves City falls, Floating Spear City will be next. I'm afraid we have to go and help Floating Spear City. Jabufan was shocked for a long time, but he didn't dare to delay. He put on his armor and left with his men. General Zhua, you said you would accompany me tonight. How can you leave? Furthermore, I think this news is completely fake. How can Kong Taechu fight with Chen Liuha and defeat a Heavenly Monarch Realm Patriarch? Don't panic and make people laugh their heads off. She was the manager of this building. Her name was Golden Swallow, and countless cultivators wanted to get close to her. Her background was not small. She used to be an elder of the Heavenly Star Charm sect. Her cultivation was average, but her dual cultivation ability was powerful. She was extremely charming and could make people fall in love at first sight. After tasting it, they would be intoxicated and unable to extricate themselves. Yes, don't go. If you dare to leave, don't come back in the future. Many maids moved and pulled the Jade Lake cultivators, acting coquettishly and shamelessly, not letting them leave. The cultivator called Third Brother hurriedly flew out on his sword, and the others sat down and continued to have fun. After a quarter of an hour, the sound transmission disc lit up with a second light, and another line of words appeared. Kong Taechu led the Heavenly Star cultivators and Devil Cave Mountain cultivators to break through White Stone City, Maple Leaf City, Five Peaks City, Floating Spear City. This time, Jiang Tian pushed across tens of thousands of miles and broke through 13 cities. Although outside of Floating Spear City, they were all small and medium-sized cities, but it gave people a feeling of unstoppable force, making people's hair stand on end. According to the map, Jiang Tian's route was like a peerless heavenly sword, heading straight for Star Capital. Jobufan's eyes were wide open, and his face was pale. His eyes were filled with fear and disbelief. Kong Taechu's speed was too fast. How was this attacking a city? This was clearly eating candy. He couldn't control himself anymore. He stood up and rushed out, saying, "Quickly, go to the city wall." Boom. At this time, a series of earth-shattering explosions came from above the city, like rolling thunder. The cultivator called Third Brother flew over on his sword, covered in blood, and said in a trembling voice, "General Zhua, it's not good. Heavenly Star City's defensive formation has been destroyed, and the city lord and 3 generals have been killed." They attacked so quickly? In just one day, they pushed across 90,000 miles and broke through 13 cities. Isn't this too fierce? Jabufan released his divine sense and scanned outside. He was so scared that his legs went soft and he almost fell on his butt. Chapter 1329. In the sky above the city. A black-haired, black-eyed figure in a long robe was slaughtering like a god. Every time he attacked, thousands of Jade Lake cultivators would explode into a bloody mist. There was no difference between a Foundation Establishment cultivator and a Golden Core cultivator, only death awaited. What was even more frightening was that there were still many Heavenly Star cultivators and human cultivators gathering. The situation had taken a turn for the worse. Now, the battle was completely in Heavenly Star's favor and nothing could stop it. Go to the teleportation array. Jabufan was scared out of his wits, but he immediately came up with a plan and rushed out with the soldiers. He didn't care about his property and concubines anymore. The most important thing now was his own life. As long as there was life, there was hope. There were endless dogs in Heavenly Star. As long as there was a spark, they would rise up and rebel. But it didn't matter. If Chenliu had died here, Tiandao sect and the entire Jade Lake wouldn't sit by and watch. They would definitely take revenge. By then, they would massacre the city for 3 days, no, for 10 days. Zhuobufan's imagination ran wild. As soon as he reached the door, Jin Yanzi caught up with him and hugged his arm. Commander Zhuo, where are you going? If you're leaving, you must take me with you. Otherwise, I'll be punished by Kang Teichu. Take you with me? Get out. Zhubufan was about to curse. Suddenly, he felt a chill in his chest and a dagger had pierced his dantian. The blood-stained dagger in Jin Yanzi's hand was his own dagger. At the same time, led by Lu Chengfeng, almost a dozen maids and servants let out explosive roars and launched sneak attacks. There were casualties on both sides. In the blink of an eye, dozens of corpses fell to the ground. The ground was full of blood and broken limbs. A bunch of little sluts, how dare you plot against me? Zhuobufan was furious. How dare a Qi refinement cultivator sneak attack me? Do you want to die? Jin Yanzi, captain of the 7th Battalion of the 3rd Army under Miu Ferry from Wild Wave City, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Jin Yanzi held a blood-stained dagger in her hand. The charming and seductive look on her face had long since disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a cold killing intent. Her gaze was cold and sharp, and her voice was sonorous and powerful, like the cry of a sword. Originally from Floating Spear City, under the command of Jianghaishan City's city lord, Captain Lu Chengfeng of the 9th Garrison Army's 2nd Elite Brigade, would like to experience your skills. At an unknown time, Lu Chengfeng had already changed into the standard military uniform of the Heavenly Star Cultivator Guard Army. His blood-red robe, which had been scorched and pierced through by the arrows, fluttered in the wind. He gripped the broken blade that the military had been equipped with a year ago, and shouted with a biting, cold, murderous aura. Bitch! Old man! All of you die! Even though Zhuobufan was injured, his strength was still not weak. He pulled out his sword and slashed at Jin Yanzi and Lu Chengfeng. Jin Yanzi's cultivation base was low, and Lu Chengfeng was injured before. Without any cultivation resources, his vitality had long dried up, and his magic power was scattered. On the other hand, Zhuobufan's sword was a spirit artifact-grade weapon, and he also had many protective artifacts. For a moment, the two could only parry and had no strength to fight back. However, no matter how injured Lu Chengfeng and Jin Yanzi were or how much blood they had lost, they still continued to fight. The broken blade in their hands was still like a storm as they attacked Zhuobufan. Zhuobufan was so frightened by this life-risking fighting style that his legs trembled. They were simply unkillable cockroaches. Would their blood not stop flowing? How would he know that Lu Chengfeng and the others were not fighting alone? Jiang Haishan, Miayu, and the thousands of cultivators who had died for the Stellar Sky domain were now possessed by their souls and were accompanying them, giving them endless strength. Suddenly, Lu Chengfeng was struck by a sword, and it pierced through his chest. However, he did not retreat. Instead, he allowed the sword to pierce through his chest. He suddenly took a few steps forward and hugged Zhuobufan tightly. He shouted at the top of his lungs, "Kill Zhuobufan!" Zhuobufan was anxious. Kang Teichu and the others were about to break in and occupy many teleportation formations. He would not be able to escape. His entire body's quintessence surged as he punched Lu Chengfeng's back again and again. He did not know how many bones Lu Chengfeng had broken, and pieces of his internal organs were seeping out from his mouth. However, Lu Chengfeng's arms were still hugging him tightly like an iron hoop, not letting go. At this moment, Lu Chengfeng could not feel any pain. As his blood and quintessence flowed out, his consciousness gradually became blurry. However, he seemed to hear Miayu, Jiang Haishan, and countless dead comrades, family members, fellow disciples, and disciples encouraging him in his ears. Chengfeng, go for it. Sect Patriarch, don't let go. Hang on for a while longer. The city will be breached, and this evil thief will not be able to escape. Jin Yanzi, on the other hand, was crazily stabbing with her short blade. Although she was sent flying by Lu Chengfeng's astral winds every time, she still got up and stabbed again. When the Stellar Sky Domain's army arrived, Lu Chengfeng, Jin Yanzi, and the others had all died in battle. They were almost all bloodied, but Lu Chengfeng did not let go of Zhuobufan until his death. Many Stellar Sky Domain's cultivators were surprised and could not believe it. Lu Chengfeng's arms were shattered. Logically speaking, he should not be able to trap Zhuobufan. However, for some reason, Zhuobufan was unable to break free. Zhuobufan's dantian was pierced, and he was captured alive. In order to separate the two, they had to cut Zhuobufan into pieces. When Jiang Tian led by Zhe and Ding Lai to kill the last Jade Lake cultivator and descended from the sky. Absolute Beginning Dominator, you are finally back. Absolute Beginning Dominator. The entire star capital was in jubilation. Both mortals and cultivators were so excited that they were crying. They knelt on the ground and paid their respects to this invincible master who had suppressed the Jade Lake's cultivator army and the Stellar Sky Domain's cultivators. How is this possible? However, those cultivators who had surrendered to the Jade Lake world were mourning. They thought that by becoming the Jade Lake's lackey, they would be able to obtain cultivation resources, reach the limit, increase their strength, and enjoy endless glory and wealth. However, they did not expect that Jiang Tian would return in such a strong manner and become so powerful. Even the Jade Lake's army of more than 100,000 was crushed in one day. He turned the tide and took back the Stellar Sky Domain. Sigh, we were wrong from the beginning. We underestimated Kang Teichu. Someone shook his head and sighed. Regret surged in his heart. He knelt on the ground and shivered. His face was ashen. Hall Master Zhou, you are quite happy to be the Vice City Lord of Star Capital. Bai Zhe's cold eyes fell on one of the people kneeling on the ground. Here. That person trembled and raised his head. It was Hall Master Zhou Xian of the Heavenly God sect. He was in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm and was highly regarded by Bai Zhe. Later, he surrendered to the Jade Lake and became the Vice City Lord of Star Capital. He was awe-inspiring and domineering. Now, he was like a rooster who had lost a fight and was dejected. You surrendered to the enemy. According to the law, you should be executed. Bai Zhe said coldly. This disciple knows his mistake. On account of my 200 years of loyal service to Heavenly Star, please let my family go. Zhou Xian's heart was like dead ashes. Whether we are to be spared or not. It's not up to me, but up to the laws of the Heavenly Star. Bai Zhe shook his head and said coldly. With a wave of his hand, the law enforcement hall's cultivators took him away. Jiang Yunhe, I now appoint you as the commander-in-chief. Command the entire army, investigate the traitors and punish them severely. Ding Lai said in a deep voice. This subordinate will not disappoint you. Jiang Yunhe clasped his hands and looked at Jiang Tian gratefully. He knew that this must be Jiang Tian's arrangement. Jiang Yunhe and a few elite cultivators led the army and left in a hurry. Bai Zhe, Ding Lai, and the others bowed to Jiang Tian and said, Grand Primordium Ruler, please enter the palace and discuss the next step of the plan. Welcome back, Ruler. Many Heavenly Star cultivators and mortals shouted in unison. Jiang Tian came to the palace and everyone sat down. Jiang Tian first raised his hand and set up a soundproof array to keep Long Yanan outside. Then he flicked his finger and released Chen Liuhe's divine soul. Chen Liuhe was a nascent soul overlord after all, and his divine soul was very solid. He no longer looked arrogant and domineering. Instead, he knelt on the ground and said, "Grand Primordium Ruler, don't kill me." Jiang Tian asked, "Is Jade Lake's invasion of Earth the Ruins Emperor's idea, or did Jade Lake do it on your own?" Hearing that, ancestral patriarch True Dragon's face turned slightly serious. He stared at Chen Liuhe, not letting go of any details. This was a very important question. If the ruins of immortality began to move and attack Earth, it would be a huge challenge and a true world-ending crisis. After all, Earth had just recovered its spirit chi and its foundation was still too weak. It was impossible to resist the ruins of immortality. It's the Jade Lake Heavenly Path Sect's idea. We want to take down Earth and please the Ruins Emperor. No, it's the Ruins Emperor's idea, Chen Liuhe said bitterly. The Ruins of Immortality was located in the Centaurus constellation. It was 400 million light-years away from Earth. In addition, Emperor Zhongli had used the heaven-severing sword to cut off the ancient path of the universe. Many teleportation arrays were damaged and lost their teleportation function, making it difficult to cross the void. The Ruins Emperor's strategy was to take down the dimensional worlds one by one and push towards Earth. But when they rushed to the third-level dimensional worlds like Jade Lake, Dragon Gate, Baiming and Penglai, they had already expended a lot of energy. Many cultivators from the Ruins of Immortality had died in the war and space travel. They couldn't afford to expend more energy. The most powerful cultivators and leaders of the Ruins of Immortality who arrived in the third-level dimensional worlds mostly had the strength of a nascent soul cultivator. They monitored the world on behalf of the Ruins of Immortality and their words carried weight. Everyone from the realm lords and rulers to the commoners had to listen to their orders and didn't dare to disobey. They were called the Special Envoys of the Ruins Emperor, the Envoys of the Ruins of Immortality, or simply the Ruins Envoys. There were already very few Ruins Envoys. There were usually only 3 to 5 of them in a world. They didn't want to fight in person. Most of them controlled and commanded the cultivators in the 3rd level and 4th level dimensional worlds to push towards Earth. But Jade Lake was already outside the solar system, billions of miles away from Earth. They needed to use spaceships every time they traveled through the dimensional worlds, which cost a lot of energy. They would also encounter strange attacks and battles. It was truly an expedition. Although Jade Lake was closer to Earth, it was already within the gravitational range of the twin stars of the South Gate. The expedition had started more than 20 years ago. They had spent a lot of resources and lost more than half of their people to reach this place. However, they did not expect that they would run into a monster like Jiang Tian, causing them to be completely wiped out. They tried to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. This was a huge defeat. The Ruins Envoys already have the power of a nascent soul cultivator. With such strength, even if there aren't many of them, it's not difficult for them to take over Earth. Ding Lai suddenly frowned and said, "They can do it themselves. Why don't they do it themselves?" Chapter 1330. Bai Zai's eyes flashed, and he felt a chill in his heart. Patriarch Tai Ri, a second-stage nascent soul realm cultivator, was already invincible and almost took over the stellar sky domain. If several emissaries of the Ruins of nascent soul realm worked together, wouldn't the stellar sky domain be destroyed in a matter of minutes? "Senior, you don't know," Chen Liuhe hurriedly said. "In fact, the emissaries of the Ruins of Ruins want to take over the Earth domain more than the Jade Lake. The Ruins of Immortals once carried out very cruel experiments, and countless nascent soul realm cultivators died, but in the end, they all failed. It is said that there are some ancient teleportation arrays in the Ruins of Immortals and many other dimensions. I don't know if they were left behind by Emperor Yu, Emperor Ao, or even more ancient beings. These ancient teleportation arrays can form realm holes between different dimensions. Realm holes are like special tunnels that can distort time and space, and extremely close and connect the barriers between 2 dimensions. They can achieve ultra-long distance travel in an instant. After he finished, he glanced at Jiang Tian, as if worried that Jiang Tian didn't understand. "Continue," Jiang Tian nodded, but he was already slightly surprised. Of course, Jiang Tian knew about the existence of realm holes. He had even created many of them in his previous life. It was just that he lacked the right materials. Even the cleverest housewife couldn't cook without rice. Realm holes were like wormholes in the universe that could achieve ultra-light speed travel. However, realm holes were man-made. Most of them used extremely advanced teleportation arrays. More powerful cultivators, such as those who had gone through a tribulation, would even use more advanced runes and arrays to form special tunnels that could travel through time and space. The teleportation arrays that formed realm holes were also called realm arrays. They could achieve ultra-long distance travel, surpass the speed of light, cross the universe, and jump between different galaxies. They were the most complex and advanced teleportation arrays. Realm arrays and ordinary teleportation arrays, in short, were like supersonic fighter jets and walking on foot. They couldn't be compared. Ordinary teleportation arrays could only achieve ultra-long distance travel of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of kilometers on a continent. It was already very difficult to create teleportation arrays that could travel more than 1,000,000 kilometers. They required even more advanced materials and extremely advanced array formation techniques. Jiang Tian had noticed this before. The stellar sky and heavenly state were not far from the solar system, and they weren't far from Earth. The teleportation formation used to enter these envoys was still considered an ordinary one. Jiang Tian didn't expect that in a higher-level world, there would be a world array that could create a world hole. At this moment, Jiang Tian could not help but suspect that the cultivation civilization on ancient Earth might be much more powerful than he had imagined. It said that when the Ruins Emperor first occupied the ruins of immortality, he discovered a world cave-grade teleportation array. Many ruins of immortality cultivators attempted to travel to secondary dimensions like Heavenly Star. Chen Liuhe's soul was filled with deep fear. It kept expanding and shrinking, as if it were about to collapse. However, they immediately disappeared. Some turned into ashes, and some didn't even leave behind ashes. Even a nascent soul cultivator wouldn't be able to resist it. Bai Zhe, Ding Lai, and the others looked at each other in disbelief. Jiang Tian smiled faintly, already somewhat understanding in his heart. Later, after the research of the array masters under the Ruins Emperor, these world cave-grade teleportation arrays, including the dimensional barriers of each dimension, have an automatic detection function. The array spirits can identify and kill the ruins of immortality's overlords. And the Jade Lake lineage is still a descendant of ancient Earth, so we aren't restricted. Speaking of this, he seemed to show a bit of shame. Indeed. Patriarch True Dragon said. Usually, the world cave from a third-level world to a fourth-level world would have problems, preventing the ruins of immortality cultivators from passing through. However, most of the world caves from the ruins of immortality to the second-level and third-level worlds are normal. As a result, they can't take the final step of the Ruins Emperor no matter what. Therefore, the ruins of immortality cultivators often can't pass through the world caves to break into the fourth-level worlds like Heavenly Star. They can only use the overlords from the third-level and second-level worlds that they have already conquered. In other words, the ruins of immortality cultivators who can't use the world caves to travel quickly have to go around the fourth-level worlds if they want to attack Earth. In other words, they can't use them as a springboard. They can only use the most primitive interstellar travel and arrive on space battleships. Patriarch True Dragon made the final decision. Why would such a situation happen? Everyone looked at each other in confusion. It's actually very simple. Jiang Tian pondered for a moment with his eyes focused. He already understood and nodded. When the ruins of immortality arrived at the Southern Gate Twin Stars, the Ruins Emperor from the Southern Gate Twin Stars immediately showed his claws and fangs and started a war with the Ao Emperor or his successor. He massacred the cultivators of ancient Earth on a large scale. The Ruins Emperor was very powerful. He didn't even need much time to occupy the ruins of immortality and push his way to the second-level and third-level worlds. But the Ao Emperor and the others also had a communication system. Just like the dragon whiskers in the Dragon Gate world, they began to send messages to the worlds that were still sailing, asking them to stop advancing and at the same time, close the dimensional barrier. Patriarch True Dragon's expression changed slightly after hearing Jiang Tian's words. There were indeed such words in the image disk array left by Senior Dragon Whiskers. However, I didn't expect that the so-called closing of the dimensional barrier wasn't that simple. Instead, it was closing the world cave or creating some kind of verification function. Ding Lai smiled in relief. So, at the end of the day, the Ruins Emperor and the others can't invade our 4th-level worlds personally. Around him, several generals and important ministers nodded in agreement, revealing joyful expressions. Don't be careless. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed as he said, the Ruins Emperor is no ordinary person. The Southern Gate twin stars behind him can't be underestimated either. They've been coveting Earth for tens of thousands of years. Also, there are many experts and geniuses in the Ruins of Immortality. Do you think that billions of cultivators can't think of a way to break the dimensional barrier and travel through space after tens of thousands of years? Bai Zhe, Ding Lai and the others froze. Bai Zhe nodded in agreement. Yes, cultivation resources are limited, but the desire of cultivators to become stronger and the cultivation civilization to expand is endless. Who doesn't want to conquer the universe? Master, there's something I don't understand. It's been bothering me for a long time. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon pondered for a while and suddenly asked. The Ruins of Immortality is the biggest world formed when the ancient Earth began to wander the universe. The spirit chi there is also the richest. The land there is endless, spirit veins gather like dragons and spirit springs are everywhere. Even the drinking water of mortals contains a lot of spirit chi, so there are many golden core cultivators and nascent soul cultivators. In the 3rd-level worlds, golden core cultivators can be considered giants and ancestral patriarchs. But in the Ruins of Immortality, only nascent soul cultivators and soul formation cultivators can become ancestral patriarchs. Compared to the Ruins of Immortality, the other worlds are nothing. The Earth realm was even more desolate. Why do they have their eyes on Earth? Of course, you can say that there are remnants of planet extermination on Earth. Once the spirit chi recovers, it'll be extremely suitable for cultivation, comparable to the Ruins of Immortality. But that's only comparable. The spirit chi of the ancient Earth that both sides occupy should be equal. There's no need to go to the Ruins of Immortality for something far away. The universe is full of danger. Every civilization is a hunter and a prey at the same time. How can we let others sleep beside us? Bai Zhe looked at the sky and heaved a sigh. Bai Zhe, there's the deity trap array on Earth and the ancient path of the universe has been cut off. Of course, this might be because Ao Huang wants to stop the destroyers from attacking. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon said. Objectively speaking, it's true that Earth has become a dead planet with no spirit chi and no cultivators. Earth is on the path of a technological civilization. It's impossible for humans to travel to the South Gate twin planets with their technology. When Bai Zhe heard this, he also felt that it made sense. Jiang Tian looked at the deep starry sky and suddenly smiled, saying, "That's right. If I'm right, the Ruins of Immortality and the South Gate twin planets are also facing a crisis." What? Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. In their minds, the Ruins of Immortality was a sacred place for cultivation. How could it be facing a crisis? But if that wasn't the case, they couldn't explain their desire for Earth. Crisis? What kind of crisis is it? Is it an invasion of the universe? The first thing that came to Bai Zhe's mind was the universe. Some of them looked at Jiang Tian and some looked at Chen Liuhe's divine soul. Chen Liuhe shook his head and said, "I've never heard of a crisis in the Ruins of Immortality. The Ruins envoys have always said that as long as we are loyal and fight the enemy, we can go to the Ruins of Immortality and enjoy endless cultivation resources." There's no crisis, or Chen Liuhe doesn't know? I think what the Primordial Lord said makes sense. Everyone was confused. There are too many calamities of Armageddon. As for what they are, I don't know. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with a trace of profoundness, but his expression was still calm and composed. He chuckled and said, "You all know about the great changes on Earth in ancient times and have been through some hardships. But in essence, you are still the same as Earth. You take survival for granted. But in fact, from the perspective of the universe, the survival and continuation of a civilization is extremely lucky and has a very low probability. The universe isn't as peaceful as we think it is. Not only are dangers lurking everywhere, but there are also countless world-ending catastrophes. What the Lord said makes sense. As the saying goes, we are born in hardship and die in peace." Bai Zhe, Ding Lai, and the others all seemed to have been enlightened. They revealed looks of realization, but they also felt a little ashamed. No matter what their crisis is, we only need to know that the ruins of immortality are determined to take over Earth. That's enough, Jiang Tian said faintly. As for how to pass through the realm hole or forcefully break through the world barrier, I think the Ruins Emperor and the others will definitely figure it out. It's just a matter of time. It's just that they will have to pay a heavy price. Then what should we do? Ding Lai immediately panicked. Of course, he was not a coward. It was just that the war that had lasted for more than a year had made him realize the strength of the Jade Lake cultivators. Moreover, the Jade Lake was only a relatively powerful third-grade world. There were even more powerful second-grade worlds and the ruins of immortality above them. What should we do? Fight. Jiang Tian's eyes were filled with a sharp killing intent. He flung his sleeves and stood up. A terrifying killing intent and battle intent swept out like a raging wave hitting the shore. He said coldly, "We have to strike first before they invade. We have to attack the ruins of immortality and catch them off guard." Chapter 1331. Hearing this, everyone's heart trembled. At the same time, they were full of awe and respect for Jiang Tian. It turned out that in their hearts, the ruins of immortality was high and unshakable. They didn't even dare to think about attacking the ruins of immortality. Only Bai Zhe looked excited and shouted, "Master, are you going to conquer the Sea of Stars? I can't wait." Strictly speaking, that's right. Jiang Tian smiled and nodded. The dimensional worlds of Chiye, Kanglin, and Tianqing were still within the solar system. But the ruins of immortality had already reached the twin stars of the South Gate, which were completely independent of the solar system. Even the second-level dimensional worlds had entered the gravitational range of the twin stars of the South Gate. Some third-level dimensional worlds had already rushed out of the solar system and used artificial suns or Dharma artifacts to collect starlight. From this point of view, attacking the ruins of immortality and the higher-level dimensional worlds was already the first step to conquering the Sea of Stars. Brother Taichu, I think we should first attack the third-level world, Jade Pool, and then the second-level world. Then we should go all the way and finally attack the ruins of immortality, Bai Zhe suggested with anticipation. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon looked worried and said, "According to the original sequence, Tianqing, Kanglin, and Chiye are all third-level Dragon Gate worlds. But Jade Pool used these worlds to attack the Tianqing and Kanglin worlds. I think the Dragon Gate worlds have already met with misfortune." He looked at Jiang Tian and said seriously, "Master, we should first take back the Dragon Gate, Chiye, and Kanglin worlds. Only by maintaining the stability of the rear and ensuring the safety of Earth will it be meaningful to take down Jade Pool." "That makes sense." Jiang Tian nodded and said, "Has the teleportation array from Tianqing to Dragon Gate, Chiye, and Kanglin worlds been repaired?" "It has been repaired." Ding Lai bowed and replied, "Jade Pool is occupied by Jade Pool. However, the Blue Billow world has been occupied by the Jade Lake. As soon as a heavenly star cultivator enters, they will immediately be attacked and killed. Although the Chia world hasn't been occupied, they are extremely afraid of Jade Pool. Every time the cultivators of Tianqing enter, they will collect a lot of crystals, Dharma artifacts, spirit herbs, and other cultivation resources." Speaking of this, he had already revealed a deep anger. Originally, the Earth realm was the ancestral land of all the dimensional worlds. Without the ancient Earth, these dimensional worlds would not exist. As the last bastion of Earth, these dimensional worlds should fight for their ancestral lands. However, they had either surrendered to the ruins of immortality, forgotten their ancestors, and wanted to attack the world of Earth, or hit them when they were down and took advantage of the situation. It could be said that they were extremely despicable. Most of the teleportation portals from Kanglan and Chia worlds to Earth are rotten, or the coordinates are wrong. Otherwise, they would have attacked Earth with Jade Lake long ago. Bai Zai's eyes flashed with killing intent as he said angrily, "If that's the case, what the true Dragon Patriarch said makes more sense. We must first take down Songlan and Qi worlds. Otherwise, it will be really troublesome." Jiang Tian's eyes also revealed a hint of seriousness as he said, "The transportation array is rotten. The cultivators of the Blue Wave world can't repair it, but it's too easy for the cultivators of the Jade Lake. Their strength isn't even on the same level." Jiang Tian said with a cold look in his eyes. "Once these teleportation portals are repaired, it will be very easy for the cultivators of the Jade Lake to enter Earth. Earth has just recovered its spirit chi and its foundation is still weak. There aren't many overlords there and they can't withstand the torment at all. Besides, my old friend Zhang Qianlei has been in Chia for several years and we don't know if he's still alive. So, we should take down Songlan and Chia worlds first. Ding Lai, make a trip to the Earth realm and ask Lotus Tathagata to take charge here." Jiang Tian ordered. "He must be a nascent soul overlord. If he stays here, even if the Jade Lake world invades again, he won't be afraid. Besides, if the Jade Lake world wants to come to this world, they will have to break the dimensional barrier by force. It's safe for the time being." Ding Lai bowed and said. Jiang Tian stood up, and a cold, killing intent was released from his body as he said, "Bai Zai, True Dragon, Dai, Ding Ling, follow me into the Chia world. The rest of you guard this world." "Yes." The True Dragon Patriarch was energized and Ding Lingdang was eager to go. Bai Zai also looked forward to it. Saliva dripped from the large black dog's mouth and he said, "This is awesome. Now, there's another golden pill to eat." While Jiang Tian and the others were preparing to enter the Chia and Songlan dimensions, the Jade Lake world had already received the news of Chen Liuhe and Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun's death and was completely terrified. In the depths of the boundless mountain range, behind an ancient and towering stone door, there was an enormous stone platform and teleportation formation that covered an area of 5 kilometers. It was densely covered in talisman formations, and all of them were extremely rare and profound spatial talisman markings. Above the stone platform, waves of light vibrated, storms changed, and the dimension shook violently. Around the stone platform, a group of cultivators in armor with halberds in their hands and swords around their waists stood in the air, looking around vigilantly. Each of them was above the mid-stage foundation establishment level and was very powerful. If they were on Earth, they would have surpassed sky immortals and could be called ancestral patriarchs. But here, they were common and could be found everywhere. Many ancient bronze ships rose and fell on the giant stone platform from time to time. They either tore the dimension open and flashed, or shot into the sky and disappeared. There were even cultivators riding on swords. They seemed to be very busy. This was one of the biggest universal docks in the Jade Lake world. The cultivators here could travel between worlds because of these ancient stone platforms. Lord Liuhe has been gone for a year. I'm afraid there will be good news soon. A general in golden armor said seriously, but he was actually communicating with a few guards. I heard that there are only a few golden core cultivators in the stellar sky domain. Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun is a nascent soul heavenly lord. It's like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. As the most powerful sect in this world, the Heavenly Dao sect basically represented the cultivation world of the Jade Lake world. The sect master of the Heavenly Dao sect was also the realm lord of this world. The realm lord was also the king of the mortal world. Under the king, there were many countries and sections. Correspondingly, Chen Liuhe was not only a Zongzi but also a prince. He was also the commander of the army. That was why they were called lords. That's right. Another guard nodded. Then he frowned and sent a voice transmission. However, I don't know why Lord Lyoha is willing to take such a huge risk to take the Stellar Sky Domain. I heard that the Stellar Sky Domain's array formation was destroyed long ago. The spirit chi is unstable, and miasma is everywhere. It's not suitable for cultivation. It's like a remote village. No golden core cultivators can emerge in a few hundred years. That's right. Even if Lord Lyoha takes the Stellar Sky Domain, he won't get any benefits. I've heard that the other princes are all actively performing and making contributions in order to fight for the throne of the country. Lord Lyoha's action is? One of the defenders added worriedly. They were all warriors under Chen Lyoha's command. Chen Lyoha's situation was related to their honor and benefits. You don't understand this. The general in golden armor seemed to have a card up his sleeve. He smiled meaningfully and said, Lord Lyoha is very talented. His Highness Luha is such a great strategist. The Stellar Sky Domain is just one stop on his expedition. His target is the Earth Domain. The Earth Domain? Everyone felt lightheaded. Rumor had it that the Earth Domain was an ancient planet that had been abandoned for a long time. It did not have any spirit chi. It was no longer a remote village but a wasteland. That's right. The Earth Domain is Lord Lyoha's target. More importantly, he is the target of the ruins of Immortality Emperor. The general in golden armor's eyes shimmered as he said something shocking. If he succeeds in this battle, he will definitely be rewarded by His Majesty. Ignoring the Jade Pool world, even the desert world above us will be in Lord Lyoha's hands. No one will be able to stop him. The moment he said that, is that true? Everyone was shocked. Then they were overjoyed. Indeed, the Ruins Emperor was high and mighty. He was a man of his word. No one dared to disobey his orders. As long as Chen Lyoha was valued by the Ruins Emperor, it would be like having divine help. No one would be able to stop him from rising. As the saying went, when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs ascend to heaven. As the generals under Chen Lyoha, they would also receive benefits of varying magnitude. Just as the general in golden armor was about to say a few more words, suddenly, a light flashed on the teleportation array's stone platform. A small and exquisite bronze flying shuttle descended. This kind of flying shuttle was actually a battleship used to travel between worlds. However, it was smaller and faster. It was usually used to transmit messages. It's Lord Lyoha's communication battleship. It's back. Could it be that he has already conquered the Stellar Sky Domain and even the Earth Domain? Many of the generals were overjoyed as they hurried forward. The door of the flying shuttle opened. A golden core soldier with a shattered dantian stumbled and fell to the ground. He shouted weakly, "Hurry up and report to the sect master. Lord Lyoha's Stellar Sky Expedition army has been completely annihilated. Patriarch Binding Sun is also dead. The Stellar Sky Domain has fallen." At that moment, all the generals and soldiers were dumbfounded. They were dumbfounded as if they had been struck by lightning. How did this happen? Wasn't the Stellar Sky Domain about to be conquered? How did it fall again? Also, there are no nascent soul experts in the Stellar Sky Domain's resistance army. How could they have killed Patriarch Binding Sun? After a long while, the golden-armored general finally spoke with a shocked expression. Everyone around him was speechless. They couldn't answer this question at all. This was too bizarre. It was like hearing that a newborn baby could kill a powerful self-cultivator with a single punch. It was simply unbelievable. No matter what, this is a big deal. A big deal that can pierce the heavens. Lord Lyoha is the most beloved son of the Sovereign Realm's Realm Lord. A general said with trembling hands. Yes. I have to go see the Realm Lord immediately. The golden-armored general raised his hand and grabbed a light image imprinted array disc. Then he rose into the air and flew into the distance. In any case, he was a false core stage cultivator, but in his extreme fear, he actually fell to the ground and tumbled. Lord Lyoha's expedition army has been completely annihilated in the Stellar Sky Domain. Lord Lyoha, Patriarch Binding Sun, 3 nascent soul cultivators, and dozens of Golden Core Realm cultivators have all died. Soon, this earth-shattering news swept across the entire Jade Lake world like a hurricane. Countless cultivators were dumbfounded. Chapter 1332. This news was too sensational. Many people didn't believe it when it first came out and laughed it off. It was like the biggest joke in the world. In fact, it was difficult for the Jade Lake to go through the world hole and break the world barrier. Defeating the cultivators of the Heavenly Star Realm was just a piece of cake. Who would believe such a piece of news? Many people even reported this to the Heavenly Tao sect, wanting to capture this group of people who wantonly spread rumors and messed with people's hearts. It can't be true, right? But gradually, some people started to doubt it. The Tian Dao sect and the Heavenly Lord families didn't arrest those who spread the rumors. Instead, they started to gather the disciples who were traveling outside and asked them to return to their ancestral lands. Many rare talents and old monsters who had lived in seclusion for hundreds or thousands of years showed up one after another. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. There were thousands of Heavenly Lord families and sects in the Jade Lake world. Each Heavenly Lord family had one or several nascent soul cultivators. With the approval of the Emperor, they controlled a vast territory and had to pay respects to the Lord of the Realm and be called lords. The system was very similar to the Hua Xia and the Zhou dynasty, which used the system of a state, but the upper echelons were very close. So, the news of the changes in the Heavenly Star Realm had spread throughout the upper echelons in half a day. All the Heavenly Lord families and sects knew about it. At the Duanmu family, in a magnificent palace, an elder with white hair and a white beard sat on the dragon throne. His eyes were deep and wise, as if he controlled the laws of the world. His every move was in harmony with the laws of the world. He was obviously a nascent soul Heavenly Lord. He was the living fossil of the Duanmu family, Duanmu Guang. He had been a nascent soul cultivator for almost 1,000 years and reached the third level of the nascent soul level 200 years ago. Even ancestral patriarch Binding's son had to be respectful to him and call him a junior. Duanmu Ting and Duan were both killed. We have to avenge them. The living fossil shouted loudly. Gather all the senior members of the family and attack the Heavenly Star Realm. This old man is going to smash this world into pieces and kill everyone. As soon as he spoke, it was as if the space within 100 miles was trembling and fluctuating, causing one's heart to palpitate. Yes. The many elders standing in the hall bowed in unison, their killing intent dense. At the Hu clan of the Dragon Rhino Nation. Ancestor. The clan met with calamity. The current clan head, Hu Yuanjia, and the candidate for the next clan head, Hu Canghai, both died in battle in the Stellar Sky domain. An elder of the Hu family walked to the edge of an unfathomably deep abyss that was shrouded in clouds and mist. He used his divine sense to send a message and knelt down to confess. Rumble. A dragon rhinoceros that was thousands of meters long and covered in dense scales suddenly flew out on a cloud. It was like a huge mountain that covered the sky. His angry eyes were like divine lamps, illuminating thousands of miles as if they could pierce through everything. His voice was like rolling thunder. Since when did the Stellar Sky domain dare to provoke my Jade Lake Heaven Monarch clan? Could it be that I have been in seclusion for so long that the world has forgotten my name? His figure flashed and transformed into a tall and sturdy man, landing on the edge of the cliff. He was clad in dragon-scale armor and his battle robe was crimson red. He held a peerless heavenly blade that looked like a rhinoceros horn. He was majestic and domineering. Besides, the thousand-tailed Black Fox clan, the Shen family, the Mixed Essence sect, the Overlord sect, the Scorching Fire sect, many nascent soul heavenly lords and living fossils that had been in seclusion woke up from their seclusion or cultivation and turned their attention to the Stellar Sky domain the moment they heard the news. Some were shocked and confused, some were furious, some were full of killing intent, and some were watching with great interest. The Heavenly Tao sect, the top sect in the Jade Lake world, was located in the Kuan-Yun Mountain. In a palace that was paved with green jade and surrounded by clouds, there was a golden dragon pillar that supported the sky. Enveloped in clouds, the majestic Emperor Chen Qing sat at the head of the table and listened to Chen Liuhe's report on the great changes in the stellar sky domain. Punish them severely, we must punish them severely. If they kill one of our nascent soul heavenly lords, 10 of our heavenly lords will attack them together. We will destroy the star world directly. A black-faced nascent soul stage elder with a rough face was already roaring loudly with rage written all over his face. Although all the families, sects and states had suffered great losses, the Heavenly Tao sect was still the one that suffered the most. There were only 5 nascent soul overlords like ancestral patriarch Binding Sun in the Heavenly Tao sect. One less was one less pillar, especially since Chen Liuhe was the chosen prince. This time, he represented the Jade Lake to conquer the stellar sky domain to make a name for himself and gain the support of the ruins of deity. From then on, he would be able to control this domain for 1,000 years and maintain peace. If the ruins emperor thought highly of him, he would even have the chance to promote this domain to a second-grade dimensional world and gain endless benefits. However, all these beautiful ideas and plans had been destroyed by Jiang Tian. How could the Heavenly Tao sect not be angry? Besides, the elites of the other families and states that had died in this battle, and even the entire Jade Lake still belonged to the Heavenly Tao sect after all. The loss was immeasurable and terrifying. The sect master of the Heavenly Tao sect, the realm master of this domain, Emperor Chen Qing, sat at the head of the table with a gloomy face and a cold light flashing in his eyes. Weird. Too weird. Another white-bearded old cultivator said shrewdly, "That's right. Just 2 days ago, His Highness Liuhe sent a message saying that the battle was going well and that they were attacking the border city. They would be able to conquer the city within 5 days and conquer the entire star world. However, just 2 days later, the battle took a turn for the worse and the army of 100,000 cultivators was annihilated. This means that a peerless overlord has appeared among them. His strength is unfathomable. We have to be careful. We nascent soul elders and even the mid-stage nascent soul grand elders to destroy them with the sect's true artifact." The black-faced elder roared. For a moment, the elders were divided into 2 groups, each of them having their own opinions. In the end, Emperor Chen Qing made the decision and set the tone. First, send 3 nascent soul heavenly lords to enter the Qi world through the Kanglin world to gather information and find out the current situation of Star World. After the investigation, send an army to conquer the stellar sky domain completely. Annihilate this world. At this moment, Jiang Tian had already entered the Qi world through the ancient teleportation array with Zhenlong, Blackie, Baizhe, and Ding Lingding. The teleportation array at the edge of the Qi world connected the stellar sky domain and the Qi world, forming a medium-sized world crossing. Around this teleportation array, there was already a huge refugee camp with a radius of more than 10 miles. Within this refugee camp, simple and crude buildings that were 3 or 4 stories high were densely packed together. There were taverns, markets, gambling dens, and even brothels. Hundreds of thousands of people had gathered here, and it was like a town. Among them, there were rich and powerful clans, peddlers, mortals, itinerant cultivators, bandits, all gathered together. It was lively and noisy, with all kinds of people mixed together. When Jiang Tian and the others appeared on the teleportation array platform, immediately, a fat first-level foundation establishment cultivator with a large saber in his hand stepped forward and shouted, "You're the one who's going to die. You know the rules, right? The refugees of the stellar sky domain are seeking refuge in our world. According to the rules, each person has to pay 300 kilograms of low-grade crystals. From now on, you have to pay this amount on time every month. Otherwise, you can return the way you came. I won't make things difficult for you." This was simply asking for too much. 300 kilograms of low-grade crystals was enough to promote a Qi refinement or even foundation establishment cultivator. Baizhe revealed a look of anger and wanted to raise his hand to kill. Jiang Tian waved his hand and said, "Forget it. Give it to him." After all, the stellar sky domain and the Qi world belonged to 2 different worlds. They were completely independent and did not owe each other anything. If you fell behind and were beaten up, others would take advantage of the situation. This was a very normal thing. Moreover, it was an agreement between the two parties. Otherwise, they would close the teleportation array. Cultivators were not easy to deal with. In Jiang Tian's eyes, not sending troops to attack you and taking the opportunity to occupy your territory was already a mistake by the realm lord of the Qi world. Therefore, Jiang Tian was not angry. Sir, please accept it. You don't have to look for the rest. Patriarch True Dragon threw out a crystal marrow jade wall. This item was priceless. If all the conditions were met, it could promote a foundation establishment expert. Its value was far more than a few thousand kilograms of low-grade crystals. Oh, it is actually a fat sheep. The fat cultivator's eyes revealed a trace of greed and his saliva almost flowed out. He quickly reached out to take it and quietly put it in his storage bag. He handed it over to the officer based on the number of people. This time, there was a lot of surplus and it was his alone. However, when he saw Moneygrubber, he still maintained his respect on the surface and said with a smile, "You can enter the refugee camp. Each person can live in a barracks. My name is Xiao Quan and I am the manager of the number 8 Stellar Sky refugee camp. If someone bullies you, just report my name. It works. However, I have to say this in advance. According to the rules, refugees can't walk around at will or leave the camp." It turned out to be Brother Zhou. "Sorry for the disrespect." Jiang Tian smiled and cupped his fists. "I heard that the scenery of the Qi world is magnificent and there are many strong cultivators. We want to go out and travel. Brother Zhou seems to be a person who can reach the heavens. Can't you make it convenient? This is the rule. If the higher-ups know, I will also punish you." Zhao Quan's face showed a bit of embarrassment before he patiently said, "Yes. There is a slave market, a fighting camp, and a brothel here. You can eat, drink, and play all you need. Don't talk about you, even the nobles of the Qi world like to come here to play. Don't think so much about going out." He was smiling on the surface, but in fact, he was extremely contemptuous of Jiang Tian. This guy seemed to be a useless second-generation cultivator. He had money but no heart. He was a slave of a conquered country and still wanted to go out and play. Chapter 1333. As Zhao Quan spoke, he pulled Jiang Tian and the others to look around. They saw that in the huge Colosseum, Heavenly Star cultivators were using inferior magic tools to fight ferocious monsters. They were beaten until their bones were broken and their tendons were broken. They spat out blood and were directly swallowed, just to earn a few crystals and use these crystals to obtain the right to live. As for the cultivators of the Crimson Field, even if they were mortals, they had the qualifications to sit on the dazzling viewing platform. In the surroundings, maids wearing thin gauze clothes with their naked bodies faintly discernible shuttled back and forth. They courteously fawned over the guests, living a life of wine and meat. They saw that the Heavenly Star Maiden, who was originally the daughter of the city lord, was already starved to the point of being emaciated. She wore ragged clothes, and here she was being sold as a slave. Their parents and relatives were also here for the sake of obtaining the right to live, or even just a bit of spirit grain. Otherwise, they would have starved to death. Zhenlong hurriedly gave her dozens of crystals to save her from the fate of becoming a slave. They saw 2 Heavenly Star Qi condensation cultivators, who were originally brothers, draw their swords against each other for the sake of a little bit of petty profit. They fought to the death, and in order to survive, the ugliness of human nature was magnified thousands of times over. Ding Lingdang hurriedly stepped forward to dissuade them, offering some spirit grains and food to them. They saw injured cultivators without spirit medicine. Their bloody wounds were covered with maggots and a foul smell assailed their nostrils. They lay on the ground on the verge of death, groaning in pain. Their eyes were filled with despair and helplessness, waiting for death with the names of their wives and children. They saw many Heavenly Star cultivators gathered in the tavern to drink. Their eyes were filled with despair and dejection. They drank until they were dead drunk. They were drunk, hoping to numb themselves to forget the pain of losing their ancestral land. Some of them were in tears, slamming the table and roaring to return to Heavenly Star, but they were only met with merciless ridicule and ridicule. That female slave being sold is the daughter of the city lord of Gathering Wind City. She has both talent and skills. I didn't expect. Ding Lingdong's eyes were filled with tears. Her delicate body couldn't stop trembling. She clenched her fists, trying to hold back her tears. This is war. Once you fail, you are even worse than a slave. Death is better than living. Jiang Tian sighed. When encountering injustice, they would sometimes lend a helping hand, but most of the time, they would just watch quietly. Be it in the Earth domain or the stellar sky domain, many civilizations did not realize the dangers of the starry skies. They did not understand how difficult it was to survive. They always had fantasies. This was the cruel truth. If you fell behind, you would be beaten. No one was spared. This is all because of our negligence. We did not guard the stellar sky domain well. That is why they are suffering. Ding Lingdang murmured as she wiped away her tears and helped the severely injured cultivators along the way. At the side, Bai Zhe had an ashamed expression. He had his hands behind his back as he looked at the sky without saying a word. It's not your fault. The decline of the Heavenly Star domain can be traced back to the emergency stop era of interstellar wandering. At that time, the Ruins Emperor suddenly turned hostile and attacked the deity ground and the various multidimensional worlds. The Heavenly Star domain had to stop the advancement array in an emergency, but it had already caused the instability and collapse of many spirit gathering arrays and gravity arrays. 1,000 years ago, we were invaded by the extraterrestrial races. The Saint Sex Master destroyed the teleportation array with one slash and formed the One Sword Valley. At that time, the array was completely destroyed. From then on, it was difficult for even one Golden Core Realm cultivator to appear in the next few hundred years. Compared to the Jade Pool and other worlds that have already entered the gravitational range of the Southern Gate twin stars, the foundation of the stellar sky domain is too weak. It is not even on the same level. So, don't blame yourselves. The rise of a civilization is bound to encounter many twists and turns. Jiang Tian's eyes became deep and weathered. As he walked and watched, he sighed and communicated with everyone using his divine senses. The stellar sky domain has been liberated. Let's save them all. Kill the guards in the refugee camp, activate the teleportation array, and let them all go back. Bai Zhe was irritated. His eyes flashed with cold, murderous intent. He communicated with Jiang Tian using his divine senses. Don't be hasty. Once the teleportation array is activated, it will alert the experts of the Qi world and bring us unnecessary trouble. Jiang Tian remained calm. It will only take me 3 or 4 days to wipe out this domain. They will not suffer for too long. Little brother, don't worry. Zhao Quan didn't know what Jiang Tian and the others were discussing or why they were spending so much money. He winked and said, "Here, as long as you have money, you will live happily. In the morning, you will watch the cultivators fight the demonic beasts. In the afternoon, you will go to the gambling house to drink and gamble. In the evening, you will go to the brothel to find the young ladies of the stellar sky domain to play." Just like that, a fulfilling and wonderful day has passed. He had shares in the wine shops and gambling houses. Now, business was booming. Even the cultivators of the Qi world liked to come and play. He made a lot of money, his daily income surpassing that of a small city's lord. Jiang Tian stopped and looked at Zhao Quan with a smile. In the next few days, you will maintain order here. Don't let the people of the Qi world bully these stellar sky refugees. Give them some necessities. Don't let them kill each other. If you can do it, I will give you a set of high-grade armor. What do you mean? Zhao Quan listened to the first half and tilted his head to look at Jiang Tian. He couldn't help but curse. You are a refugee. Why do you care so much? High-grade true artifact-level armor. But in the end, Zhao Quan couldn't help showing a bit of excitement. He quickly patted his chest. Don't worry. Refugees are also people. It is my responsibility to maintain order here and maintain the basic survival of the refugees. A high-grade armor. If he wore it, he would be like a chicken turning into a phoenix. He could withstand the attack of a golden core cultivator and could even be passed down as a family heirloom. Remember your promise. Jiang Tian patted the heaven-swallowing demon gourd and a set of armor flew out. This set of armor flashed with golden light and was covered with exquisite runes. It was like a work of the gods, wonderful and natural. It really is a high-grade true weapon. Zhao Quan held the armor with both hands, his eyes shining and his saliva almost flowing out. He was so excited that his whole body trembled. Let's go talk to the realm lord of the Qi world and try to form an alliance to resist the immortal ruins. A cold glint flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes as he said, I'm afraid they might not agree. Ding Lingdang frowned. If they don't agree, then kill them. Replace them with people we think are suitable. Jiang Tian smiled faintly, as if this was a normal matter. Old Black, you stay here and guard these refugees. Kill anyone who dares to bully them. Jiang Tian said with a smile. Then you have to keep the golden cores you drop for me. The large black dog drooled as he made a request. It's best to refine them into spirit pills. I want spicy ones. Look at how fat you are. Jiang Tian had a look of disgust. Recently, the large black dog had eaten too many golden cores and spirit pills and had started to get fat. He was so fat that he almost became a ball. His belly was close to the ground and he was puffing as he walked. I'm not fat, I'm plump. 1 kilogram of spirit pills a day, it really can't be less. Otherwise, you are abusing animals. Besides, I also want to lose weight but I need to eat to have the strength to lose weight. The large black dog said aggrievedly. I'll refine it for you. Remember your task. Jiang Tian was very depressed. Then he flew out of the refugee camp with everyone. This time, Zhao Quan didn't stop Jiang Tian from leaving. Instead, he reluctantly shouted, Little brother, remember to come back. If you encounter someone checking your household registration outside, it will be very dangerous if you don't have proof of origin. When you come back, Brother Zhou will invite you to drink and watch a play. Good things. Dragon Scale Gold Rune, Imperial Thunder Rune, Fire Rune. This thing can buy a giant city. Once Jiang Tian disappeared from sight, Zhao Quan took out the high-grade true artifact level armor and smiled happily as he looked at it. Suddenly, he turned to the collar. A line of small gold embroidered words came into view. The Tiandao Sect's refining pavilion was made by His Highness Chen Liuhe. Zhao Quan was so scared that he sat on the ground, his body trembling like a sieve. His eyes were straight as he murmured in a daze. I heard that His Highness Chen Liuhe has fallen. This is their spoils of war. Who are these people? He felt that things weren't good. He was so scared that he trembled like a sieve. He got up and hurriedly took out a sound transmission artifact. Something big is going to happen. I have to report to my superiors. This is a problem. The Heavenly Star rebels who killed Chen Liuhe have invaded. Fatty Zhou, who do you want to report to? Who invaded? At this time, the large black dog was holding a spicy strip in his mouth and chewing on a spirit pill. He suddenly appeared out of thin air, shaking his fat buttocks as he asked with a smile. You stop right there. Surrender without a fight. Otherwise, I will kill you. Zhao Quan pulled out his long blade and shouted loudly. Bang! The big black dog stood up and sent Zhao Quan flying 100 meters away with one paw. He smiled. He smiled and said, What did you just say? Say it again. Believe it or not, I will roast you until you are medium cooked and eat you. Brother Black, don't be impulsive. Calm down. You must calm down. Zhao Quan covered his chest and vomited blood. He no longer dared to be presumptuous and smiled. What do you want to eat me for? I am too fat and greasy. I am old and my meat is too coarse. I will definitely have diarrhea if I eat it. I will take you to eat Chinese alligator meat. It is tender, smooth, and refreshing. There is also a spicy taste. Brother, I will treat you and you can eat as much as you want. Chinese alligator meat? It is also spicy? It turns out that you are also a foodie. You have good taste. I believe we will become good friends." The large black dog was grinning from ear to ear, saliva dripping from his mouth. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.